Have you ever been in a conversation and someone mentions a special interest that you want to talk about?
Non-stop?
But it's just a little too off topic.
Perhaps there's a random subject someone mentions in passing that you really just want to learn a little more about.
Or maybe you want to listen to some of your favorite podcasters cross over and cover something offbeat and completely unrelated to the podcast they're currently hosting.
Introducing Glitterjaw Presents, a variety podcast feed from the hosts you know,
With plenty of friends along the way.
Each Glitterjaw Presents episode will feature at least one host from a Glitterjaw show,
Covering a topic that may not be related to the shows that they host.
Or any of the Glitterjaw shows currently on our roster.
These will be standalone episodes,
Miniseries,
Odd experiments,
And other special presentations on topics ranging
from music
to reality TV,
to conversations about the queer media that shaped us.
and so much more.
no matter what the topic, you can expect the same quality from all of your favorite queer podcasters.
and some guests.
Talking about the things they're passionate about.
If that sounds interesting to you, make sure you subscribe to the Glitterjaw Presents feed wherever you get your podcasts.
And follow Glitterjaw on Instagram and Blue Sky to be alerted when new episodes drop.
Glitterjaw,
Glitterjaw.
Glitterjaw
Glitterjaw presents.
Hey, Gavin.
Hey, Louie.
How are you doing, Diva?
I'm doing okay. I can't really complain. A little sleepy.
I literally finished work about 2-3 hours ago. Took a nap.
I thought you were going to say 2 minutes ago. I finished work 2 minutes ago.
No, imagine. Oh my God, Diva. The
How
full
was
working
the-
girlies. The nap was great. I slept on that futon right there. Woke myself up by my snoring. That's just how we're doing today. To pick myself up, get into the mood. I did pour myself a little gin and tonic.
Nice. Very nice.
I saw you're like sipping out of a goblet, a tiny little baby.
Yes, this little
Who's
aperitif.
she?
Yeah. Yeah, just a nice little aperitif we got in Italy. And but I also have a beer as well. So I'm double fisting.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's just
Dan have
Corona.
Yeah, and that's just a Corona, high and low, aperitif from Italy, and then a Corona,
Absolutely.
With highs and lows here. The reviews are mixed.
Yeah.
Which
I
I
think
think
that's
is a good segue.
Yeah.
This is a good
Absolutely.
segue into. Hi everyone, welcome to the Mixed Reviews.
We are a film podcast where we take a film subject such as an actor, director, or a mini genre. We take an entire month, learn as much as we can, watch so many movies, and then we take all that information and give it back to you. We put on a grand, opulent show, sometimes garish, sometimes neon lit, and then we tell you what we like and what we don't like.
Opulence, you own everything. Yes, Gavin.
Clack,
The
clack,
review-
clackety clack.
Baby, and this is our Pride episode, okay? So let us
Truly is.
not forget. We've been doing Pride episodes, I think, since our very first year, where we talk about someone queer in the business we call Hollywood, because some Holly won't.
And technically every episode of the Mixed Reviews is a Pride episode, but we designate, one episode a year to get a little extra of the LGBTQIA plus.
This is the episode that won our bracket for our May Madness series. Before we get into the winner and who we're talking about, I just want to shout out our last episode. Chels was back. We talked about Julie Andrews, the diva, the icon herself. What fun it was to go through her career. I read the first of her 2 memoirs, and her life was crazy. And it is crazy sometimes being a childhood megastar, savant, virtuoso, which she absolutely was.
We received mostly positive notes from that, but I will say it's always dicey saying anything negative about a Disney film. Oh my God. Oh
The
my
girlies
God.
were not happy for us talking about Mary
No.
Poppins the way we did.
They're like, it's actually a great movie, you guys. I can't take these opinions seriously.
I was like, listen, I like Mary Poppins too. I think some of the songs are bangers. But like sitting down and watching it from front to back is a little bit of a drag. I want the movie to end as soon as like they go into the chalk world, and then that's the
Right.
end.
I
Period.
also just think this culture of like, if you don't, art is subjective, folks. Art is subjective, just like the Boulay brothers tell us every episode. And sometimes people don't agree on it. And it's one of those crazy things that like permeates the internet, is that if you disagree about something that someone likes, they're instantly like, you shot my mother. Oh my God.
Or like if you don't like one thing or that like someone else likes, then like they must be somehow broken or like what is wrong with your what is
Or
wrong with your
my
brain?
favorite is, oh, you didn't understand it. It's like, I actually
Right.
think I got it, but thank
Even
you.
even if I didn't, who cares? Yeah, I didn't get it, and I didn't like that, and it's not for me. Okay, not everything is for everyone, and that's a-okay.
That's the beauty of being alive, folks.
But anyway, so the not Judy Garland. Wow, it is a Pride episode. If I'm thinking about Judy.
Well, now I can't cut that out. That's gold.
That is gold. Julie Andrews, thank you so much. We had a lot of fun. But we're somehow getting gayer this episode. We are talking about. Oh, well, wait. I'm getting ahead of myself even now. Something also even gayer that me and Gavin did. We did another commentary episode that you can catch on our Patreon. We watched Jennifer Lopez's Enough, which I love. And I will say, the one thing that we've only just started doing these commentaries, but what I've loved doing about them, we're watching pretty familiar movies that we've seen before. And I think like you and I are finding new ways into these movies and like having new discussions and discourses that have really been a pleasure for me to have. And Enough, which, is kind of like trashy fun. We ended up talking a lot about Jennifer Lopez and her ability to just play the every woman. She's basically playing a white woman, and how the concept of like her name is Jennifer Lopez. She is a Latina, and the identity is nowhere to be found in this movie. But what does that mean in the context of this movie about a woman being abused by her husband? Interesting. It was just like an interesting, thoughtful discussion. And also wigs.
and I think like to add to that too, I think what it is our show, we take such a maximalist approach to careers, and we do a lot of work, research, and watching all of these things. That's maybe sometimes we do miss some of the smaller things. So I think going back and looking at just one piece of someone's career and seeing that, being able to like give it the minimalist view, we're able to sort of extrapolate some thoughts that we maybe didn't have the first time around too. And I did think that was really brilliant when you brought that up, that she is, for all intents and purposes, playing a white, like her ethnicity doesn't really factor into that movie in a way that it would now, for better or for worse.
Right.
And it's kind of a fascinating thing that we did in the 90s, or well, I guess technically early 2000s, but yeah. So
and that she was specifically able to do. I mean, we did it because she has a new movie, Office Romance, out, where literally Edward James Olmos is reprising his role as her father. He played her father in Selena, and like her being a Latina is important to this movie. Like it's not like a central thing, but like he has like a Spanish nickname for her. Like there is a little flex of Spanish here and there. Like it's part of the universe.
Go listen to our commentary for more of that. And I do think they're actually really cool, and hopefully the people on the Patreon are enjoying them. And they've been a lot of fun for us, and they're a good way for us to like put out more content to make sure everybody's feeling as though they're getting their money's worth.
Yeah. So subscribe to the Patreon. We will see you there. We will be doing more of those in the future. But okay, I think that's all of our old news. We can get into this month's episode. We are talking about the divatastic, an elder gay who literally did it all. He made. I mean, baby, the gay agenda. He was doing it. Okay, there were so many little gay boys out there, and little gay girls, and little bi creatures of the night who saw these movies and said, "Oh, something has changed within me."
Yes, 100%.
We were talking about Mr. Joel Schumacher, director Joel Schumacher, director, writer, costume designer, all around just Hollywood man.
It's sort of a jack of all trades, because he lived 1,000 lives before he passed away.
Yeah. And we've talked about a lot of his movies.
Oh my
on
God,
this.
so many. When I was going through the list of his movies, I was like, what are the films that we've covered? And, we talked about St. Elmo's Fire before. We've talked about Falling Down before. We've talked about Batman and Robin before. We've talked about Flawless.
Incredible Shrinking Woman.
Yeah. Tigerland, Phone Booth, Veronica Guerin, Fan of the Opera.
Number 23 with our
Yes, Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. So like he's kind of been in the background of a lot of our episodes, but we haven't taken them as a whole and specifically about Joel and his work as a whole. I can't tell you that if I remember like the first time I clocked like, oh, this is a Joel Schumacher film. I obviously saw the Batman movies when I was young. But even like when that became apparent to me that I was like, oh, that's Joel Schumacher,
Right. Right.
And I liked those Batman movies. And then going back, I remember when I saw St. Elmo's Fire for our episode about Andrew McCarthy, I was like, hello, Joel Schumacher. Like, it's so random. Like it still kind of is like a fun surprise. And I'm like, oh my God, what is Joel Schumacher doing here? So yeah, what about you, Gavin? Like, did you have like any sense of like who this man was, or like in your conscious, like, oh, this is a Joel Schumacher film?
Right. I think probably the same. Probably like the earliest consciousness would be Batman Forever. I had seen both Lost Boys prior to that, and I think Dying Young, of all things. Also, my dad.
Dying Young is crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And my dad was a big John Grisham head, so I definitely saw both The Client and A Time to Kill. But I think the Batman movies were really the Batman movies were the thing that, like, if you were a kid growing up at that time, were the things that like cemented his name and, hilariously enough, made him sort of persona non grata for people our age, because people still to this day talk about him as though he is the mastermind that ruined Batman for decades.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it, I guess, but like there really seems to be this like hard divide between people who really, really enjoy those movies and then really are just like fucking ruined it forever. And it's very bizarre. And maybe there is some homophobia involved in that. Maybe there's just like his maximalism, heightened reality. A lot of his movies, even his movies where it's like just kind of normal rom-com-y kind of like slice of life character study stuff, all feels very heightened reality. And I think obviously people now with their comic book hero movies really kind of want the gritty realism. Like Christopher Nolan just really fucking buried that shit. Like there's just no going back. We used to have fun with like our comic book heroes and like movies broadly. And now it just seems like, nope, we need to be punishing all the time.
We, you and I standing next to a window with a cigarette going, we used to have fun.
We used to have fun in the movies, okay?
This town used to be fun. And then we both fall out the window.
Yeah, Uma Thurman used to look hot and was fun, okay? When people say that they like were gay because Chris O'Donnell as Robin, I'm like, I get that, but like,
right.
Uma's right there. Like, what do you mean?
Exactly. You were gay because she took off her gorilla head, and that's...
Thank you. Like, and she looked stunning and was fierce. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I really didn't give a shit about Robin. Like, whatever. But regardless, Joel Schumacher. Like, what a crazy life this man led, and just like the amount of movies in all sorts of genres that he like dipped his toes into. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, I think there's so much to his life prior to Batman and then obviously after Batman that like doesn't vibe with what you think of like a normal Hollywood story either. And so I think he's really fascinating. And I think on the thing I've been telling people, because I keep telling them, oh, we're doing Joel Schumacher, and they're all like, really? And I was like, well, obviously you didn't vote. So
yeah.
But I'm like, the thing that he's really good at, his like biggest talent is he recognizes beauty. Like he's so good at making things beautiful, or looking at someone and being like, they're beautiful. Because like, once again, like Dying Young, like you were saying, crazy movie. But like the star of that movie is like Julia Roberts's red hair extensions, like curly red. And she just burns every frame that she's in. And it's gorgeous. And he's so good at like picking that out at watching, I can't even remember what movie he said it was, but watching like a movie that Kiefer Sutherland had like 2 lines in and being like, who's that? I need him for a movie. Or like casting Jason Patric in The Lost Boys, like just recognizing he like his eye for beauty was unparalleled.
And we see him, he works with a lot of the same actors again and again, whether it's Nicolas Cage, whether it's Colin Farrell, like.
Yeah, and none of them had negative things to say about them. Even Tommy Lee Jones, I just don't think he ever said anything about him. And Tommy Lee Jones, he called an asshole in an interview. So like,
wait, Tommy Lee Jones called him an asshole?
No, or Joel Schumacher called Tommy Lee Jones an asshole. And it's funny because there's a great, we're probably going to bring it up a couple different times. There's a great Vulture interview from 2019, a year before he died, by Andrew Goldman, and he brings it up in the interview. He's like, you worked with him twice, and he's like, he's a great actor.
Yeah, like, maybe that's business. We were working, okay?
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm excited to get into it. I think we're gonna like, really, it's not a good thing, but there's a compact amount of movies here.
Yeah,
a lot of these we've seen before, and so it was kind of cool to go back and like kind of rewatch through the eyes of like, oh, it's not just what's happening here with like Colin Farrell, but like getting bigger picture.
100%. And that's one of the things that like when we do this show, I really do attempt to focus on the subject. So like watching Tigerland for the first time for Colin Farrell, I was watching Colin Farrell, and this time I was like really trying to take it all in. And I know like that's maybe not the healthiest way to watch a movie for the first time, is just focusing on one aspect, but it really works for this show. And so it was cool. Yeah. Tigerland specifically was one that stood out to me because it was a movie I really liked the last time and I thought was fine this time. I didn't dislike it, but I was like less inclined because there's something about Colin Farrell's performance in it that's really like beautiful and unexpected. And when you're watching for everything else, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I guess he's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's his Star is Born moment and he's great in it. But yeah. Okay, Gavin. Why don't we get into our rewind?
Joel Thomas Schumacher, and it is Thomas. I had to go out of my way to find what the T stood for because usually he was just credited with a T. But Joel Schumacher was born on August 29th, 1939 in New York City. He's a true New Yorker, as J-Lo would say. Crazy.
That's right.
She lives in LA now. She doesn't get to decide. His parents were Francis Schumacher, a Baptist from Knoxville, Tennessee, who died from pneumonia when Joel was only 4 years old. And Marion Schumacher, a Swedish Jewish woman, she raised her son in Long Island City alone, and she was working all the time. She had like basically like 4 jobs during the day, like 2 jobs that were night jobs. And because of that, Joel Schumacher was he was a latchkey kid. He was going around doing whatever he wanted. And he has talked about his youth in many, many of these interviews. And he was never candid about the fact that he's like, I should be dead. I should not be here. He used to basically bike across the bridge into Manhattan.
There was no television. My father died when I was very young. Probably around 4. My mother it was just my mother and me. My mother was out at work 6 days a week and 3 nights a week. I, by the time I was 7, was pretty wild on the streets and getting into a lot of trouble, but also we grew up in the shadow of the Sunnyside movie theater. So besides getting into all the trouble I was getting into, I lived in the movie theater. When I saw Great Expectations, because it starts with a little boy in a graveyard, and that was an image that I could respond to because I was a little boy in a graveyard when my father died. And it was, I guess, a personal experience of that. So I didn't realize I was watching David Lean's Great Expectations.
He started taking drugs such as LSD and methamphetamines, and he started drinking at the age of 9.
Jesus Christ, this man has lived he's 9 years old and lived a harder life than I have.
Well, it gets even better. At around the age of 11, possibly a little later, but not much, he starts having sex. He starts having sex with men. He starts having sex with women. He has sex with anybody who's available. In that interview, I was specifically talking about the Vulture interview. He was asked, do you think any of that is sexual assault? He's like, no. In my part, I don't think. He's like, he has something that I really bristled at, because I was like, oh boy, I really don't think you should say this. He said in this interview, and I quote, "Listen, I mean, if I say this, I'm going to be killed. There are very seductive children, and I was one of them. I was very seductive at a very young age. That doesn't mean that anybody who was older should have said yes or just complied, but I feel in my lifetime I've always been a very results-oriented person."
That is crazy.
Yeah. He was also asked in this interview, would he have considered himself a hustler? And he said no, because that would require money to change hands, and there was no money involved. So it was not an easy life for him. And he was born, like I said, 1939. So he's doing this in like 1950. Like,
yeah.
And I think it's also important, especially because it's our Pride episode, to point out the sodomy laws in the United States were not repealed until the 1960s. What he was doing, besides the fact that he was underage and it was technically statutory rape, was also illegal when it came to men. So there's just a lot of stuff on top of all of the drugs, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like his mom was by herself, having to work a million jobs, and he wasn't getting the attention that he probably needed as a kid at home, and was just, I don't know anyone who's done this crazy of things, but I certainly have known people who are food insecure and home insecure, and are just on the streets, you know, doing whatever, finding any pleasures in life to get by. And it is a very horrible, awful thing that a child would have to experience these things that early. And I will say, at least he is right. Like, that doesn't give any excuse for anyone who's older to say yes to these things and make a child, you know, go through those things. But it is crazy that he's saying that children can be seductive. Like, what the fuck? You know what the fuck you were doing, diva. Hello?
Right. As he's growing up, he's still sort of lost. His mom's working a lot. You know, she's not in the best health either. This interviewer asked him, you know, I've read about your lost summer in the Pines, and he responded with, quote, "Lost summer? I was lost for 5 years, from 65 to 70.
Jesus.
He said he spent a lot of that time in a Speedo, just never getting out of a Speedo. He would get up in the morning, go in the waters, lay out in the sun all day.
And that spirit lives on in Fire Island today.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
Let no one tell you otherwise.
He did famously said he doesn't really have any track marks. He does have a little scar tissue, but what kept him from getting heroin track marks was his vanity.
Wow.
Yeah.
The mirror saves her.
Yeah, it's true. In 1965, he ends up graduating from Parsons School of Design. He does decide, like, basically, he's like, I need to get my act together, and doing something that gives him the confidence that he can create is what sort of helps him kick a lot of his addiction. But at the same time, he said, you know, Parsons wasn't great for him. Not a lot of people understood what he was attempting to do and whatnot. And he ends up getting jobs more from association than from the actual degree. He becomes a designer for Revlon in 1966, basically because he like got a connection through Parsons and not because of anything that was in the actual degree that he graduated with. His mother then died shortly before that in 1965, and he kind of thought to himself, you know, life is a joke. He was $50,000 in debt already, mostly because of school. He'd lost multiple teeth already due to drug use, and he weighed only 130 pounds.
Jesus.
And luckily in 1970, It's when he fully kicks any sort of drug habit. And that's when he becomes an employee of Henry Bendel, which is a women's department store in New York City. And he said, quote, "I got my self-respect back getting a good day's pay for a good day's work." Part of that is because he lost that Revlon gig because of the drugs and because he just couldn't get it together.
Just as I signed the deal, my mother died suddenly. And so then I didn't want to design clothes. I wanted to make movies. And there was no real movie colony in New York, so
it's funny to think about, people will sometimes say young gay men act childish because they weren't able to grow up as their true selves when they were going through puberty, like straight people get to do. It seems like he got a lot of his hard gay life out very early, and so when he's still young, he just started graduating from college, and now he's oh, I'm just gonna settle down, figure it out, and get it together. So whereas people who are in their 20s 30s are going to Fire Island and being crazy, he's baby, I was doing that when I was 15, so
right, exactly,
that's behind me.
And from there, from working at these high-end women's stores, he gets a job designing windows and basically doing all of the famous window treatments that you think of when you think of Fifth Avenue.
He's Jack McFarland.
And from that job, by the way, he starts really meeting fashion people out of that, which is so funny that he didn't get it through the Revlon gig, but through dressing windows, because he has such contact with the outfits that they want to sell and the high-end things. And he said he was doing things one week he bought a giant pane of unbreakable glass and shattered it with a hammer, and then took all the very fancy dress mannequins and piled them in a corner, scared, they were horrified at somebody breaking in through the window that night. And it was just a huge hit around town. And these got him in with people like Veronica Vreeland, and he met Halston doing this. And once they become his friends, he starts frequenting parties, and he ends up at parties with people like Michael Douglas and Brenda Vaccaro. And he talks about how at that time, Michael Douglas wasn't the draw. Michael Douglas was just a TV actor, and Brenda Vaccaro, who was a movie star.
I love the idea that New York never really changes. If you were a cool artist making cool things, you get into that crowd of people who are other cool artists making cool things. Some of them might be famous, some of them might not be, but it literally just, if you can make your shit and people are wait, we need to invite the cool guy who's making the insane window displays on Fifth Avenue to our party because we want to be around creatives, that just never changes.
Right. And he even said the Michael Douglas said that they became friends because they kept ending up at parties that didn't have assigned seating. and that was he said Streisand was at some of these parties, Robert Evans, Ryan O'Neal, and Tatum O'Neal. So
wow.
Yeah, he's just making these connections, and he gets the bug in his head. I need to move to LA. I need to get out in LA and make it. And he said in one of the interviews I found, he was I had this amount of money, and I was the moment I run out of this amount of money, I have friends in New York. I can go back to New York. I can crash with them. I can get my old job back, and I'll start from scratch.
I had 10 lives, okay, and a lot of it involved with, drugs, sex, rock and roll, and insanity, and crashed and burned. And my mother died at a very young age also. So I mean, I always got jobs in the arts, but when I got off shooting drugs in 1970, I decided that I had fucked up everything in my life, and my dream as a kid was to become a movie director, and I went around telling my friends I was going to go to Hollywood and become a movie director, and they thought I was back on drugs.
And he goes out to LA, and by 1972 he ends up as a costume designer on the film Play It As It Lays, and then also went on to do the wardrobes for Diane Cannon, Joan Hackett, and Raquel Welch for the film The Last of Sheila. And he got that job because he was friends with Stephen Sondheim and Anthony Perkins. So somebody
so strange.
Somebody was running the Queen circuit.
Okay, let's be really, really real. Do you think because we saw The Last of Sheila for our Whodunit episode.
Yes.
Do we think, and based on our reviews of that movie, Sondheim was certainly doing a ton of coke. Do we think, realistically, Joel Schumacher said, "No, not for me, guys"?
Yeah. No, absolutely not. I mean, he
was no fucking way.
Once again, he's still hanging out with Halston as well. He said, for the film Play It As It Lays, the characters he was designing for were affluent people, but there was no budget. So what he did is he called Halston, and Halston sent him samples of clothing under the thing that they would be sent back to him. And so the women in Play It As It Lays are just wearing Halston designs because casual friendship. Exactly. So yeah, exactly. And I'm sure like Anthony Perkins and Sondheim got him coked up. I can't,
I mean, and
we'll never know, obviously, but
yeah, allegedly. But like, there is just no way that those men were not, if not sleeping with each other, like going out and just tearing it up with all the boys of LA. 100%. Those were the girlfriends.
We'll get to it a little later. Usually where we talk about marriages. But Joel Schumacher, said that he wasn't a kiss and teller. Like he was like, the privacy of my bedroom is where, he's like, I slept with a lot of people, but like, I'm not going to talk about who I slept with. And like I said, even earlier when we were talking about this, when we started this episode, that interviewer was like, "Oh, did you and Halston ever sleep together?" And he's like, no, we're just friends,
That's my sister. Okay.
Exactly. Don't talk about my sister that way.
Yeah.
It's not, well, I don't think I'm important enough for people to know about me, but the great thing about my life is the people along the way, and you can't tell. And if you don't tell, it's boring, and if you do tell, you violate every relationship you've ever had. And I have to die with the secrets because I owe them that.
He also starts a friendship with Woody Allen. And I know, like, dicey territory, we do not have to talk about Woody Allen too much, but he remains friends with Woody Allen for his entire career. And he talks about how, like, Woody Allen had just broken up with Diane Keaton. And so they were, like, single guys. And Woody Allen would call him up to just, like, come, be like, come out, hang out with me. So Woody Allen has him work on Sleeper, I believe, and he's building a name for himself. So in 1974, he ends up writing his first script for a biographical made-for-television movie based on the life of Virginia Hill. And he's like shopping around, and people are like, "This is good enough. Why don't you just direct it yourself?" And so he is hired to make his very first film, which is a TV movie about Virginia Hill. But it's very TV movie. I wouldn't say this was a grand, like, watching it being like, "Oh, I see the vision." I think that actually does come later. I think one of the interesting things is because he was so good at taking other people's designs, I think the early part of his career is a lot of mimicry. And I think it takes him like 2 or 3 films before you start, like, before things start to feel like a Joel Schumacher movie. We'll get to more of that in just a moment. In 74, he and Howard Roseman wrote the script for Sparkle, which went in production in 1975. And he said, essentially,
I'm a street kid, and I was involved with every generation finds their music, and there was a program on at midnight called Moondog that a Jewish guy in New York, Alan Freed, did, and he played what we call race records, which are some of the great beginnings of rhythm and blues, which is Big Mama Thornton and Laverne Baker and Fats Domino and Al Hibbler and the late great Johnny Ace, and I don't know, each generation finds their music, and that was mine.
Essentially, the studio was like, we're looking to sort of cash in on blaxploitation. And they were like, we're gonna hire black people to write about black people and black filmmakers to make movies about black people, and then they did not.
And then they said, "What if instead we didn't do that?"
And Joel Schumacher, has talked about that. Whether he had a great experience on it, and he said he got to write about his personal fascination with Jesse Jackson, Angela Davis, Tamel Terrell, and Diana Ross, and working into the script. I mean, it's Sparkle. I watched it for this. I had never seen it. Even though he didn't direct it. I mean, it's essentially Dreamgirls before Dreamgirls. It's the Supremes, but it like gets kind of like one starts dating a drug addict and she becomes a drug addict herself. One becomes like a freedom fighter, and like it's a lot of ideas that are condensed down to a very short sort of running time. But there's a lot of talent that comes out of it, which I love. And based off of that, he then goes to write two more prominent Black films, Car Wash and The Wiz, which is wild.
Insane. But I will say, like, there is something to be said about, being a ostensibly out gay man in the 70s. And it is the 70s and disco is raging, and like
Right.
that culture of gay people and Black people at the clubs is just so intertwined. And I'm not saying it's like the same thing. Of course
No.
it's not. But to me, it does like make sense that he at the very least understands the sensibility, is like you mentioned, seeing the beauty in people like Diana Ross, seeing the beauty in these Black men who are underappreciated, and seeing the beauty in like all the sparkle and the costumes and of all that. So it makes some sense, especially when it comes to like aesthetically.
Right. And then, I mean, The Wiz too, nonetheless. Like, I mean, how much have we talked about The Wizard of Oz and queer identity and how those things really relate to each other? So I'm sure the through line was there, but you're right. It's not the same thing, but I do understand sort of the thought process that there, a lot of people look at him as this outsider who came from New York,
Right.
who's not hiding who he is. And I think that maybe we're not stressing that enough, is that like there was no closet for Joel Schumacher. It's not like Joel Schumacher moved to LA and was like, I'm straight now. Like
Right.
he just was himself, flamboyant.
Hollywood needed an avatar of a white man to like help make this culture legible. And it took this gay guy this gay white man to make all those things, all this Black culture like legible to them, understandable to them.
Yeah.
And that like, this is later, but like even like DC Cab, I was like waiting to be like, oh, this is so hateful and gross, but I was like, it kind of, it
Right.
feels just like very lived in and like kind of,
Yeah.
normal's not the right word, but it doesn't feel exploitative, really. It just kind of feels
Right.
like
That's where it's, yeah. I think I like DC Cab just a little, but just a little less than you based on our ratings, but I agree. And that was the shocking thing, is I was like, I kept waiting for it to get like a gross and like really stereotypical. And in fact, there's even like comments in the movie about like people pretending to be stereotypical, or like people using it to their advantage, and I was like, oh,
Right.
He's doing some interesting things here.
pushing back against white people who are trying to become saviors. Like
Right.
that movie is like straight for a movie that is very funny and satirical and kind of like silly Billy nonsense. Like it doesn't like punch down. It's not like the scary
Right.
movies where it's like, making the cheap jokes, really. It's just kind of, it's more in the lineage of like Airplane type.
Right. Well, one of my favorite things is the white taxi driver who ends up with the guy trying to rob him, and there's the Black taxi driver in the back, and when he like drives them to where the police are, the police immediately grab the Black guy and start beating him up, and it's like, you idiots, like this is the criminal, it's another white man, like I was like, yeah, the commentary is there and it's still happening. So
Yep.
in 1978, he was selected to serve as director for TV film called Amateur Night at the Dixie Bar and Grill. This movie is almost impossible to find, but if you are a member of our Patreon, I did post a link to it in our Discord. So if you would like to see this movie, because I do think it's interesting, it's horrible quality, but I recommend it. But this is sort of what I'm talking about him being sort of a chameleon, because this is only his second film, and he readily admits, like, this was his Robert Altman film, and he's like trying to do Nashville, and he's not succeeding. And Robert Altman is clearly not the point that he should have been, the aesthetic point that he should have been drawing from. But it's interesting to watch him like take on the aesthetics of somebody else.
He's very much like learning as he does, which is a privilege that not a lot of people get in the industry. So props for him for like being able to do that.
I think if you were just to listen to everything we've just said, you would assume that he maybe has like a very big ego. But it's wild to watch him in interviews and to listen to him on commentaries and to realize that there is a very humble quality to him, which I never expect. He's very generous about his time. He was very generous about his time. He was very generous about lifting people up because, as he said, his career was because people were doing him favors, and he never gave up that idea that like you were supposed to help people. Like when you got to the top of the ladder, your responsibility was to reach down and pull up the next person behind you. And I love that. And, he even, I found interviews with him right after Batman Forever, where he's like, I'm a freelancer. He's like, you think I'm making the money off of Batman? He's like, I'm not getting anything off the back end of, he's like, I got paid up front.
Yeah.
That's it, And so I think that's what he saw himself as. And I think he took the opportunity to help as many people as he possibly could on the rise, which is not to like, I'm not saying he was a fucking saint, but it is nice because it's one of those things that you don't often hear about. In 1979, he gets his first opportunity to direct a big budget, big screen film. And that's The Incredible Shrinking Woman. We talked about last year in our Lily Tomlin Pride episode. He has admitted that it was too big of a film to start. It was too like effects heavy. He actually ends up spending like 2 years on it. The reason he even gets the job is because John Landis backed out of it when they decreased the budget by like 20 million. And I think when John Landis was attached, it was supposed to be a $30 million movie. Joel Schumacher came in at 10. I think in the end, it still cost like 20 million. So they still went massively over budget. He was very proud of the work he got to do on the movie, but he was in many interviews was like, no, like I was not the right guy. And this was not the right first movie. And it was like too much.
The person that I have the most trouble with getting approval from is myself.
Why?
Well, because I fall short of, when I see great films, I'm inspired. I don't think that I'm great. I'm struggling to be good. I want to be better. I take on a new film each year and try to be better than I was the year before. I wanted to be a director all my life. When I finally got the chance to direct, I was so miserably untalented that
this is a Lily Tomlin thing, or something?
Yeah, my first feature was Incredible Shrinking Woman, and I wasn't happy with my work at all.
Yeah, you can kind of tell watching that movie. It's like it's biting off way more than it can chew. Lily Tomlin is funny, and there are like funny bits, but it's just this kind of big lumbering movie that has no direction. Like,
right.
I mean, and I don't mean that like no direction as in he did a bad job directing, but like it doesn't know what it wants to be.
Right.
It's just like too big.
It's too many ideas, and they, as we've joked about already, subtlety is not really Schumacher's forte. And like that is a movie where like starts off with like subtle messaging about sexism, and then by the end there's like a man in a gorilla suit, and
bonkers cookie bookie.
Yeah, absolutely. In 1983, he follows that up with DC Cab, starring Mr. T. We talked a lot about that just a moment ago. I do think it is funny. I didn't really find him saying anything too negative about it, but he did once say that, like, he did it because he needed a job.
She's a freelancer.
And so Tom Mound called me and said, you wouldn't want to do a movie about a little black cab company in DC, would you? I said, absolutely, because it felt handleable. In other words, I had to make sure that I really enjoyed the job of directing.
Right.
Because the job on Incredible and Shrinking Woman was, can I just get through this today?
Yeah.
Can I just get through it and not fail everybody? There wasn't a lot of joy in directing at all. And so, of course, I had been very influenced by Altman, which is what Sparkle and Car Wash and some of my earlier Amateur Night at the Dixie Bar and Grill, which was my TV movie.
Right.
So it gave me a chance to do ensemble. We didn't have a lot of money, a lot of unknowns in the movie, a lot of stand-up comics. It was so much fun. We had no money and no time, and had the time of our life.
1984, he was selected by Columbia Pictures to direct St. Elmo's Fire, a movie he also wrote. It was very secretive during production, and we talked about St. Elmo's Fire, like you said, for our Andrew McCarthy episode. And essentially, he said the genesis of this movie was he really wanted to write something about people just graduating college. And also, once again, he's from an era, he was born in the 30s or the late 30s. Like, he grew up in the 40s and 50s. You know, he's from the Cultural Revolution of the 60s and 70s. And he sees this real turn towards Reaganism, and he wanted to write a film about how, like, life wasn't for these kids. It was no longer about freedom. It was about greed is good. Judd Nelson's character, like, literally switches from a Democrat to a Republican for money. Like, I mean, once again, subtlety, not really. This movie is wild. It captures the thought process of a nation. It happens to come at the same time that John Hughes is on the rise, making his movies for teens, and this comes out, and all these teens see this movie as well. I found an interview with him where they were like, "Well, were you conscious of the John Hughes thing?" And he's like, "Yeah." But he's like, "But we weren't." We edited some of our movies. Like, when I was editing St. Elmo's Fire, I was right across the hall from John Hughes, but they are not the same. He's like, no. You look at my movie. My movie's about, like, infidelity, stalking, suicide. You look at John Hughes' movies, they're like kids in detention. He's like, they're not the same bread and butter.
Yeah, this is, like, it's funny because people, like, lump St. Elmo's Fire in with all the John Hughes stuff, and, like, this is not a movie about, like, teenagers. This is about like people becoming adults. And this is about, like, how fucking horrible and hard it is to not just be like kiki with your friends, but having to actually graduate into adulthood and make money.
You miss school, don't you?
Yeah. You know, school is pretty out of hand. In everyday life, there's just no way to be out of hand. You gotta be sold. You know, if it ever got to be too much, like, just too much.
Oh, God. Well, that's out of hand.
It's one thing to have feelings about, like, your body when you're a teenager, but, like, when you're older, it's the stuff that you're like, oh, it's cute when you're a teen, but when you're older, it's like, it's not cute anymore. It's actually like,
yeah,
this might be a mental health thing. This might be like you're being destructive. And it's funny also, I was wondering about, like, what does this man know about, straight relationships? And, like, because the scene where, like, Demi Moore is basically, like, telling fucking Rob Lowe, like, to get the fuck off her, and he's, like, about to assault her, and, like, they're good friends allegedly in this movie, right? That's, like, fucking hard stuff. Or Rob Lowe at the beginning of the movie where he's, like, got in a car accident and he's, like, being a bad father and, like, husband to his wife. Like, there's a lot of anxiety about, like, being a young person in this movie. I don't think it's, like, the most successful film, but like, again, it introduces Joel Schumacher. What I think Joel Schumacher is, like, signature is, like, this heightened reality. It's the telenovela romanticization of life, right? You know, everyone has their thing, the thing that's like causing them strife, and it's like, and it's their one thing, right? Because only people can handle one bad thing in their lives at a time.
Right,
But
exactly.
like literally, it's like their lives pause because, you know, this girl's like, oh no, my family wants me to get married and I feel fat, and she's like literally a normal woman. But yeah, it's all heightened, and I think again it makes things in the same way that John Hughes movies did for a generation. It makes growing up legible. It makes growing up like understandable and relatable. And so I'm not surprised. Like, even though it is kind of bonkers, it is very affecting.
And I mean, the aesthetics of it are just so. I mean, this cast, like Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe, Andrew McCarthy, Demi Moore, Judd Nelson, Ali Sheedy, Annie McDowell, Mayor Winningham. Like the studio wanted a song, so he goes and finds a musician. He said the song "Man in Motion" was actually written about a paralyzed athlete, and he convinced the I wish I could. My brain is fried right now, but the guy who wrote it to add the lyrics "St. Elmo's Fire" to it, and it's a huge hit. You know, they shot that video over a weekend essentially, and like he is a genius when it comes to that. So he just really is, and like. The famous story is that he saw Demi Moore like walking down a hallway, and he sent his assistant. He's like, find out who she is. The assistant ran and like came back and was like, her name's Demi Moore. She's on a soap opera. Her contract's like expiring soon and whatnot. And so like he's just like he could visualize it, which is a crazy talent. I mean, is that not a director's job? A director's job is to take the best things from every department and make them into one solidified vision. And that's what he was really good at, whether the vision was good or bad.
Right. Do you think this is the first appearance of sexy saxophone moments?
Yes.
That we're gonna get. Do you think, like, was that out there before, or was he like, we need sexy saxophone playing? It is hot. It is young. It like. The sound of like, and in the same way that we're like, I don't know, when we were kids, it's like rock and roll, right? Like guitars and shredding. This man said, no. Shredding on a saxophone. That's really fucking cool.
That's really, yeah. In 1987, speaking of, he ends up directing The Lost Boys. This was not on his radar. It was not something he wanted to do. This is not a script he wrote, even. Essentially, Lauren Schuler Donner and Richard Donner come to him, are like, we have this script. We think you'd be perfect for it. And he realizes right away, oh, you want me to fucking direct this kitty vampire movie because I just did the other kitty movie. Like, he literally said, he's like, he's like, and you made the Goonies, and this is just fucking Goonies with fangs. He's like, there was like Boy Scouts, and there was like fart jokes. And he's like, no, that's not. And Richard Donner was like, do whatever you want with it. Who cares as long as you direct it? And so he was like, okay, well then there needs to be sex and like he said, you know, where the vampires lived originally was a cave. And he's like, are you going to fucking use the cave set from the Goonies that you just built? Like he was like, what if it was an abandoned hotel that had been buried under, you know, an earthquake? And he's like, and there's no women here and there needs to be women. Like, why don't they have a mother? Why isn't there this young, sexy, and literally he redefines the script and makes this kind of like teenage opera about vampires. And you know, this is Kiefer Sutherland's first big starring role. This is Jason Patric's first big starring role. I was informed by our good friend Chels that unfortunately Jamie Gertz is no longer good. But Jamie Gertz at the time, like, so beautiful. Also, the Coreys. Like, this is one of the Coreys. One of the starts of the Coreys. You have both Corey Feldman and Corey Haim in this movie. And even Alexander Winter from Bill and Ted, which I feel like gets left out.
Random. It is wild because, like, there was a time when, like, a lot of these things became a joke, like the Coreys. And but, like, watching them, it all works. It all just works. We talked about this movie briefly in our Vampires episode, but like going back and rewatching, I was like, wow, this is a movie for boys, and it's not shitty, and it's not like bad, and it's literally about like bros hanging out, getting into misadventures, and, you know, like just like it's there's a little homosexuality sprinkled here and there.
Well, I was gonna say, and there's more than that. There's a lot of queer theory about this movie, and anything from obviously the younger brother, and like I was talking about the musical. I'm wearing the shirt for the musical currently.
Now on Broadway.
Yeah, now on Broadway. They make it explicit in that the younger brother like is coming into his own queerness. Like the oiled up sax man is sort of his queer awakening. Like
many such cases.
Yeah. He sees it for the first time and he's like, do you think that's sweat or oil? I think it's oil. But people have written papers about the fact that his grandfather leaves him a stuffed beaver and he's so scared of it, he locks it in the closet. And
I mean, hello?
Once again, Schumacher's not the most subtle filmmaker.
But the thing is, though, it's like, I think he has, from the time of doing his window treatments, like, it's spectacle. This movie is a spectacle. I'll never forget like the moment of like the guy when they push him into the tub full of holy water and he's just like, melting and stuff. It's a big spectacle and it's cool. It's like,
yeah.
And thank God we had movies before fucking CGI and all this shit, because like the practical, movie making here is really kind of a sight to see. It's just
they're so smart. Like when they show the flying from the perspective of the vampires, like what a good way to not have us, have to watch actors uncomfortable on wires. Like, yeah. So, and then as part of the spectacle, the other thing that gets really noticed for this film is the music and the way he incorporates music, like that, that Cry Little Sister song. Not only does it play throughout the film, it's incorporated into the score. It becomes important to the score itself, which is, something that's rarely done.
Michael. What about bud? Let the good times roll.
So much so, funny enough, that catches the attention of a little-known musician. He's written a couple of musicals by the name of Andrew Lloyd Webber. I don't know if anybody ever
heard of him.
Yeah,
casual.
And Andrew Lloyd Webber immediately is like, this is the guy we got to direct Phantom of the Opera. And I know you're thinking, Gavin, we're still in 1987. Guess what, babe? Joel Schumacher was attached to direct Phantom of the Opera from 1988 until it actually got done in 2003.
When Andrew Lloyd Webber was looking for a director for Phantom of the Opera, Gary Lucchese suggested me, and I'm sure I was on a very long list, probably at the bottom. And about last April, I went to meet Andrew Lloyd Webber. I never thought I would get it. I just thought it was flattering to just have the meeting. But it worked out. Well, Michael Crawford and Sarah Brightman, who did the original play, are in it. And then we know who we want for the other parts, but until we decide what city we're going to shoot in, we can't really offer it to anyone because we don't have a start date yet. But sometime between now and Thanksgiving, we'll be starting, because we have to come out Thanksgiving of '91. That's our, as you were saying before we started this interview, how we all get rushed with our movies. We have an opening date for Phantom of the Opera, and we haven't even started making it yet.
So they go away. Yeah, they become good friends. They write the script together in 1988, and then Joel Schumacher gets busy. And so, Joel Schumacher goes off and directs Cousins in 1989. It's a remake of a French film, Cousine. And as Joel Schumacher said, he gets away with it because no one saw the French film in America.
I did not know about this movie at all, much less the fucking French version. I think I wrote in my review that I was ready to hate this because, like, ew. But Isabella Rossellini.
Oh my God, yes.
You have a rich fantasy life, don't you?
Don't you? Don't you have fantasies?
I do.
Yeah?
I do. But they're private. Don't tell them to anybody.
Not even a dance teacher?
You're not just a dance teacher. I can't figure it out what you are.
Hey, isn't that what everybody wants? A smooth sailing life? You can achieve that for a minute out on a dance floor or the water.
My God, this movie, like, briefly, because I don't think we'll talk about it later, is just about these two old people get married, and from that, Isabella Rossellini and Ted Danson become cousins. Both of them have kind of like troubled marriages. Their spouses end up sleeping with each other and starting an affair. they find out, and instead of like being mad about it, they just kind of like hang out and become friends, and have to make a tough decision whether they want to like, actually be together or like rip up their family lives. I think the movie has a lot to say. I think it's like funny.
I do real quick also, she's often maligned. I think Sean Young is pitch perfect in this movie. She's Ted Danson's wife, and she's playing kind of a kooky, like really high, like she was she was always sort of a less refined Parker Posey, I've always felt like, and that's like this would be a perfect Parker Posey role.
Yeah, 100%. There's some, I think, pretty funny writing in here. Life can be chicken shit or chicken salad. I was like, wow, incredible.
He follows that up in 1989 with Flatliners. Flatliners, he it was another thing where it was like pitched to him, and he's like, ugh, a movie about medical students, like trying to, but then he said, specifically, at the time he'd lost a lot of friends to AIDS, and he was doing AIDS charity work at the time. And he was like, you know what? I am thinking a lot about death, and I am thinking a lot about, what comes afterwards. In that Vulture interview, he was even asked, he was like, I had some really close friends who were never, like hardly ever sexual. And they got it and they died. And I thought, oh, I'm going to die. And he's like, between, the sex and the drugs, like he was like, and he was shocked. But he said he even went as far as like setting out a plan. Like he asked his friends, Nan Bush and Bruce Weber, if he could live on their ranch in Montana when he got sick. Like he had plans for AIDS. And I think it's one of those things that, like, once again, if you're talking about this era, you have to talk about the fact that like it was a plague. And it still affects people to this day. I don't mean to act like we've gotten over the hump or anything, but we've had a lot of medical breakthroughs that have made life better for a lot of people living with AIDS. But at the time, it was very much a death sentence, especially for queer people. That being said, Flatliners, once again, he was like, college students, I don't want to, but he knew he would get the chance to work with Kiefer Sutherland again. He did the thing where he's like, the other people he casts, Oliver Platt brings Kevin Bacon back into the fold, and into an audition room. Not even into an audition room. Sorry. He said he went out one night, got totally hammered. He was at his house and he was laying by the pool, and in walked Julia Roberts, who was supposed to meet with him for an audition. She like walked through to it, and he remembers laying outside of the pool, like hung over his shit and looking up and seeing this just massive red hair. And his famous line, and I found this in at least 3 different interviews: if you did not look at Julia Roberts and cast her in a movie, you do not belong in the film business.
Hell yeah.
If Julia Roberts walked in your office when she was 19 and you didn't hire her, you shouldn't be in the movie business.
I know if Kiefer Sutherland at 18, right, or Julia Roberts at 20, right, or Matthew McConaughey or Brad Renfro or Colin Farrell or Demi, or name them all, if they walked in your office and you didn't hire them, you shouldn't be in the movie business.
If you had been casting my films and you saw 200 actors or actresses,
they would have stood out.
And they walked in, you would have said, thank God they walked in my office.
Oh, you make it sound much easier, though. Oh, come on. I think it's probably a much more difficult choice, and a lot of directors have been here and said, casting is 75% of what I do.
I'd say 90.
You say 90.
I say 90.
And then his other big thing was, if I do this movie, it's going to be goth as fuck. He's like, I'm going to set where they're doing their experiment in like an abandoned, there's going to be gothic statues everywhere. He's like, there's going to be a Halloween scene where everybody's in costume. And like watching that, I was like, of course, this is the guy they got to follow Burton.
Yeah.
Between Lost Boys and this, like, of course, this is the man. They were like, oh, he could do Batman. I think Flatliners is fine. I think it's kind of a big nothing.
Yeah. I think Julia Roberts is really putting in a performance. It's crazy how everything else, I'm just like, okay, whatever. Death.
He follows that up in 1991 with Dying Young, which is his second work with Julia Roberts. Once again, kind of a big nothing, but it's that impetus to do. And I know Dying Young is about a woman who's hired to be the private nurse of a man who has leukemia that he got older, which is kind of rare. But you can kind of tell like that this is Schumacher's AIDS movie, even though it's not actually about AIDS. You can kind of tell that's what he's going for. You can kind of tell that like if this movie were made nowadays, it'd be very different. Young Vincent D'Onofrio in this movie is so hot.
Crazy hot.
Yeah, I was like, what? When he walked in. And I saw this movie as a kid. But like the first time when he first showed up in the scene, I was like, excuse me? What? No offense to Cable Scott, who's the main character, but Vincent D'Onofrio's like his basically like love, like opposite for Julia Roberts.
Right.
And I was like, baby, go with him.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
The thing that I found interesting about Dying Young is that it's based in the Bay Area, and she lives in Oakland, and she's very much surrounded in this world of Black culture. Her best friend is Black. She is supposed to be the opposite of him going to like snooty, meals, and she's like, "Do you want to have some real fun? Let's go to Oakland and like go to black clubs."
Hi.
You were great.
Thanks.
Hey, look out!
This place isn't really that great either, is it?
Shall we go back to the restaurant?
If you were watching this movie without the context of like Joel Schumacher, like it maybe feels strange, and it's a little strange, but it's kind of like Joel Schumacher being like, this culture is not siloed, like we all live here, like this is he's just not afraid to include Black culture and Black people period
right
into his movies.
That's
and I
the
guess
New Yorker in him, like that's the
100%
people of all different shades and colors exist, sexualities and genders, and it's one of the fun things about living here. Come back, Louis. 93 he does Falling Down, reteaming with his good friend Michael Douglas. Falling Down, he said, was an interesting experiment for him because it really was coming at the time where post Reagan, George Bush, and it's interesting enough because Schumacher did live through the first Trump presidency. But, I found some interviews even from the like late 90s where he's like, people, you can read it both ways. He's like, conservatives love Falling Down because they're like, this guy's a hero, and liberals think it's a comedy. And he's like, and you kind of bring your own baggage to it. And he's like, but he's like, for me, the important thing I had to remember was like, this man was broken before this happened. Like there was like, I guess I should say Falling Down is Michael Douglas basically on a rampage to go to his daughter's birthday. However, his daughter and his wife has a restraining order against him. He's already separated from his wife, and he's like trying to cross Los Angeles to get to his daughter. And along the way, like, he runs afoul of some gangs, but like he becomes a white vigilante. And the movie goes out of its way to be like, oh, he hates racism and whatnot. But Schumacher has said the culture had already permeated of like the little guy, like the little guy's got to stand up to all the people that are different and whatnot. And he was like, and this man was sick beforehand.
Calm down. Just calm down, everybody. Just sit down. Sit down over there. Hey. Everybody just relax and take it easy. Come on. Why don't you eat your lunch, please? Eat your lunch. You all need your vitamins A's and B's and... No, it's an accident! It's an accident! It's an accident! The trigger, it's sensitive. It's okay.
Falling Down, in my opinion, has aged a little like milk. I think, especially in a this political reality. Like you know, Schumacher even said like he's kind of the first Tea Partier. If you think about it, Michael Douglas's character, I think he's even worse than that. I think he's like totally January 11th dude.
Well, it's this idea of like, taking life into your own hands, and like you've been wronged by the government systems in place to keep you down. So that tracks for me. I didn't get to watch I this is a movie that I regret not getting to. I watched clips of it on YouTube. I just ran out of time to watch, but I was just like, it's interesting because the clips I did see, it is again more heightened reality. It is critical of our reality even.
And he's really playing into that because he said, the riots were just like the month before they started shooting, the LA riots. And so like he is like really trying to heighten that, everything looks hot in the movie. Everything's sweaty in the movie. He's kind of doing in a way, not to compare them because one's a masterpiece and this is not, but he's kind of doing the do the right thing where like everything is like boiling over constantly.
Yeah. Was this right before Batman?
There's one movie in between, and actually a very important movie of his career, which is 1994's The Client, his first adaptation of a John Grisham novel. The Client's a smaller film. It's about a boy who witnesses the suicide of a man who tells him a little too much that he shouldn't know, and the criminals that are going after him, and him hiring a lawyer played by Susan Sarandon to represent him, but also to keep him safe. And Tommy Lee Jones is a real scumbag lawyer in this. I should mention Brad Renfro plays the boy. Once again, this situation where Schumacher discovers this kid. This kid comes in for an audition. He's really blown away by him. Brad Renfro, unfortunately, passes away, overdoses later on in life. It's a fun little movie. It's funny. I got to the end of it, and I think I felt sort of like the end of Flatliners, where I was kind of like, that's it? That's the end. But I will say the like tit for tat between Susan Sarandon and Tommy Lee Jones is so fucking good.
Yeah.
And Tommy Lee Jones is such a slime ball in this movie. It's like
masters at work. Masters at work.
What's Cloak and Dagger all about, Reggie? You know you can trust us.
You three come here alone?
Uh-huh.
That the truth?
Of course it is.
Well, then why don't you have one of them just trot out to one of those cars that aren't in the parking lot and get a pen and paper from one of those agents that aren't out there?
Give me something to write with, Wally.
I think what Schumacher, speaking of Gothic, I think what he really picked up on is the Southern Gothic of this all, So that's all. Once again, it's very hot and steamy. There's like a lot of like those weeping willow trees and whatnot, and it's less Bram Stoker and more, like Streetcar Named Desire, I think is what. But off of this, which it is a Warner Brothers movie, he gets offered to replace Tim Burton on Batman. This happens actually while he's filming The Client in 1993. Batman Returns had just come out in 1992. Warner Brothers decided to remove Tim Burton from doing further Batman movies because they couldn't sell toys essentially from Batman Returns. And so they bring him in. The first thing Joel Schumacher said, I won't do it unless Tim Burton says it's okay. And Tim Burton, because of his contract, had to remain a producer on Batman Forever, which is why his is the first name you see when it says a Tim Burton production when you watch Batman Forever. He meets with Tim Burton. Tim Burton says, great, I think you'll do fine. Like you seem to have some ideas for this.
Was Tim Burton like chill? Like he was chill? Like, okay, I guess I'm just not going to direct this movie. Like,
no, but I think he saw the writing on the wall when the returns weren't what Warner Brothers wanted, and the
but Batman Returns not, in my head, like that was like a huge movie, right?
It was successful technically, but they really had a lot banking on the merchandising from it.
They couldn't commercialize it as much as they wanted.
Right. And there were protests, not necessarily like huge protests, of parents being like, why would you sell toys in a Happy Meal for a movie that our children can't see? And I've said before, we did a Tim Burton episode. I said before, I saw this movie in the theater when I was 9 and I was scared of it. But I love it now. It's one of my favorite movies, but
there's a very big contrast between like the Penguin and Riddler, right? I mean, I remember watching Batman Forever and like being like, Jim Carrey, oh my god, he's the funniest person on the planet, and like I want to like every costume is something that you could wear for Halloween, as opposed to like you can't wear Catwoman's, like that is, like no, it's comic book in a completely different realm, whereas his is very, now that you see it, it is very toy It feels like
toyetic.
it feels like
And that's funny
toyetic.
that he says in the commentary to Batman and Robin, Warner Brothers taught him a new word, which was toyetic.
I call them toys because this particular movie, because Batman Forever had been so successful and brought a lot of people back into the theaters, there was enormous pressure on us to create more inventions in the film that could be turned into toys. I learned a new phrase in my life called toyetic, whether a movie is toyetic or not, and how many toys people can get out of it.
I think everybody kind of knows the plot of Batman Forever, but if you don't, it's Batman versus the Riddler and Two-Face. Nicole Kidman's there being all sexy, and Robin is introduced. He does meet with Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton says, if Tim's not doing it, I'm not really interested. He gets to recast. The first person he picks is Val Kilmer. He had seen Val Kilmer in a movie, saw that he was beautiful. Val Kilmer's my least favorite part of this movie, not to speak ill of the dead as well. I just think he's so stiff and so boring as both Bruce Wayne and yeah, exactly. He does have very pouty lips, and I can see Joel Schumacher just like holding a headshot with like
that's the mouth I want.
Exactly.
I hope you can understand.
I understand.
The casting of Nicole Kidman, she's so good. Pitch perfect. She knew exactly what she's doing in this movie. Carrie is really good. Famously, Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones did not get along, and that's why Joel Schumacher called Tommy Lee Jones an asshole, because he was just like, Tommy Lee Jones was making the most money, and he was like, he was a movie star and did not treat Jim Carrey in the way that behooves a movie star. And he's said, like, listen, Batman Forever was probably the lowest budget on a Batman movie ever. He's like, Val didn't make a ton of money. Nicole Kidman did not make a ton of money. Chris O'Donnell certainly did not make a ton of money. Jim Carrey made a lot of money because he'd already made Ace Ventura. And he's like, and Tommy Lee Jones was an Academy Award nominee. So like, he's like, those were the two that made the money. And
yeah, I mean, Jim Carrey kind of steals the movie. Like,
100%. And it's so funny. I found an interview where someone was like, did Jim Carrey steal every scene he's in? And he's like, well, Tommy Lee Jones is a scene stealer too,
No, I don't think. I would call Debbie Mazar a scene stealer before I call.
Well, and that's the other, like, I was talking to somebody recently and they're like, I can't believe Drew Barrymore's in that movie for like 5 minutes. And it's like, do you know anything about Drew Barrymore's life in the 90s? Like,
yeah. I mean, but again, it's like, if he's thinking, okay, well, we need hot girls, we need the operatic of it all, this like the heightened, he was already doing a heightened reality in regular life. Right. We're now in fucking superhero life. It's just so over the top. This nonsensical, like, I kept thinking, like, you're telling me that Edward Nygma is getting into high drag for every scene. And it's like,
every scene.
When Batman Returns, like, the Penguin lives like that. That's not what he looks like. That's just how he is. Like, you're telling me that Edward Nygma is doing wig changes and like, who did he get to make the costumes? Because Riddler has at least 3 or 4 costumes, including a full ass bodysuit that to rob, Batman's house in. But it just doesn't matter because it's Silly Billy and it's really, really fun.
He said in an interview, they were like, people call your films gay, and he's like, listen, every filmmaker brings a little bit of themselves to it. And he's like, but people wouldn't say that if I wasn't gay. And I don't think that, I think there's some truth to that, but also like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin are gay movie. I mean, like literally Edward Nygma is in love with Bruce Wayne. Like there is no way to really parse that. Like it just is. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's great. But yeah. So I mean, I guess we should get off Batman Forever. But huge hit. But the other thing I do want to say too is a lot of people blame Batman and Robin. They're like, oh, terrible reviews. Joel Schumacher was no stranger to terrible reviews, but oftentimes his movies that got terrible reviews still hit with audiences. But like, there are people writing things about how the St. Elmo's Fire was the death of cinema, that it was like illiterate cinema for children. When Lost Boys came out, very same. It got really panned by a lot of reviewers. And so Batman Forever comes out, and it too, like, it made a huge ton of money. Reviewers hated it so much so that he went on Charlie Rose. Charlie Rose did a special episode specifically about Batman with a bunch of film critics. And then he went on Charlie Rose a couple weeks later, and Charlie Rose ambushed him with clips from that episode of film reviewers of like David Denby being like, ugh, and he was like, did he think I was making Battleship Potemkin? I was making a Batman movie. Like,
right.
I don't know what David is comparing it to. Potemkin? I mean, this is a Batman comic book.
And just to do these next two real quick, because they're of the same vein, in between the two Batman movies, he does A Time to Kill, which is his second John Grisham movie. Prove that he could do so much in the first one, and coming off of Batman, he gets a big budget. This is like an all-star cast, and Matthew McConaughey was his first big movie, but like the rest of the cast between Kiefer Sutherland, Sandra Bullock, Samuel Jackson, Donald Sutherland. Unfortunately, Kevin Spacey is there. It was Octavia Spencer's film debut. Yeah. It's so funny. The French really went after this movie because the French were like, this movie is like, vigilantism is okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time with this movie. I like a lot of the performances. I like the look of it. I do think politically it sucks, and I know it creates like a really hard problem where it's like, is it really about racism? Is it really about vigilantism? Like, I mean, it definitely is about racism, but like, is the court case really about racism? Like,
right. I didn't rewatch this. I feel like I watched this for Sandra Bullock, which was now a while ago. And I will say a lot of John Grisham movies are kind of like all in the same milieu of like twisty legal double twist in the end. And I will say, to I guess the benefit of these movies, they're always just like fronted by these insanely beautiful people.
Yes. And especially in a Joel Schumacher film,
Correct.
Samuel Jackson was really upset because he truly thought this was his Oscar movie. And the reason he didn't win the Oscars, he said that there were a lot of scenes of his, like a lot of deeper scenes of his cut out.
Do you think men who kidnap a child should be free in 10 years?
No, sir.
Do you think 2 men who rape a child should be free in 10 years?
No, sir.
Do you think 2 men who hang a child should be free in 10 years?
No, sir.
Well, what do you think should happen to them? What would be a fair sentence?
Objection,
do you think
Your
they
Honor.
deserve to die, Mr.
Your
Haley?
Honor.
Answer the
Mr.
question.
Buckley.
Carly,
Did
don't
they
answer
deserve
that
to
question.
die?
Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
And then the other thing is, everybody in this movie looks like they just got out of a pool constantly, to the point where John Grisham saw an early cut of the film and said, quote, Joel Schumacher does know we have AC in the South, right?
He's like, no.
No, I don't believe in that. Next year, 1997, Batman and Robin. Joel Schumacher has said he was almost immediately pushed into this. They were not given enough time to do pre-production. They were really not given enough time for the script. And Warner Brothers was like, we need to strike when the iron is hot. And we need to make it more toyetic. So they make designs. There's a new Batmobile. Batman gets new costumes. Batgirl is introduced. She gets costumes. Poison Ivy gets a bevy of costumes, and
I think I read that like the Dr. Freeze's gun was like they were like
Mr. Freeze.
Mr.
I know
Freeze.
he is a doctor, which he should really like play into, but professionally he goes by Mr.
Freeze. I'm so sorry to the doctors out there.
How dare you? I have the action figure back here with all of the other action figures. So.
I know. Have you dressed up as him before?
Yes, I've done Mr. Freeze before. I've done everyone that's been in a movie except for the Penguin, because I have such a chip on my shoulder about being fat. That
you're like, you're not gonna catch me, bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but I read that like they immediately made that gun. Like they were like, the gun that Arnold Schwarzenegger is using is a gun that you can buy now, which is kind of crazy. I mean, and I will say, did I want that fucking gun? Absolutely. It looks incredible.
My one comment on this, and I think you should definitely go back and listen to our Uma Thurman episode. We go pretty deep on her as Poison Ivy, but my one comment is I've now seen all 4K upgrades, and I think, funny enough, Batman and Robin suffers the most because it's the one that looks the most artificial, and you can tell where they were like cutting corners. Like the ice looks a very plasticky, like the scene where he's doing the like where they're watching the Mr. Cold Miser on TV. Like you can tell it's literally just cellophane around the TV.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh boy, like maybe we don't need to upgrade it this much. Maybe the 35 millimeter
Boy.
grain was really hiding some stuff.
Is there the RuPaul season 1?
Yeah, can we put that filter on? Thank you so much. But yeah, and famously, this is the movie where it doesn't work, and it's too campy, it's too gay. George Clooney even said, like in 2005, Joel Schumacher told him Batman was gay. Schumacher has said that's a lie. I would never do such a thing. People have been calling Batman gay since the 1930s. He's like, I don't think Batman and Robin are gay. He's like, but I do think George loves to joke, and he's like a good time guy. And he's like, and George, he was like, when I was making the movie, George like loved that people thought he was gay, because it was prior to him being married.
Yeah, I think George is actually pretty good. I kind of like that he's got a little like silliness in him. Like I like my Batman to have a little bit of sass on him. I don't
put a little sugar in the tank.
Yeah, like he's like, yeah, I'm a hot like billionaire and I like run around as a bat. Like it's fun.
You can tell he knows what movie he's in with one line delivery.
Oh, is that what it is, Bruce? I'm under some kind of magic spell?
She wants to kill you, Dick.
And the way he says Dick Grayson's name is just like, oh, he gets it.
Yeah,
he knows what movie he's in.
And this is also like this movie, unlike Batman Forever, just dispenses with like any of like, oh, my parents got killed in front of me and I'm sad.
Right.
Like it's just kind of lets Batman be an adult and like just be like very normal, regular, degular. Even like they're literally fighting over poison ivy. Like that's the trauma. Like it's whatever. They dump all the sad sap stuff on Alfred, which is like fine because I don't have to like live with Alfred for the whole movie. He's just like, my grandpa's sick or whatever they shoehorn Alicia Silverstone into doing. I will say, I think she was miscast. Like, love her, but like, she's like the one kind of like, what happened here? What's going on?
I think one of the things, I don't know how hard to beat this drum, but like, I think also Schumacher was a company man. Like he was very much like, this is what you want. I'll deliver it to you. You hired me for a certain reason. I'll make it look like me. I will give it the Schumacher treatment. Warner Brothers was very quick to turn their back on him once the profits weren't there.
That is crazy considering how much money that first one made.
Right.
And the second one didn't bomb, did it?
No.
I don't know.
It did do decent numbers. It did actually do decent numbers. But it was the critical and audience backlash was so much that Warner Brothers had no choice but to sort of hear it this time. But after Batman and Robin as a debacle, Schumacher is like, I need a fucking break.
It just, everyone was expecting me to do it. They were throwing a lot of money at me. They were throwing a lot of money at the movie. And I felt that I had pleased a great deal of people with Batman Forever. So I guess I thought it would be easy to do it again.
And it wasn't.
No.
And you were not happy.
I wasn't. It was the hardest job I'd ever had. It had many rewards, and it will be very good to my old age. But I still am offered big budget movies.
And he did say he was still offered a lot of things. So obviously he was like not persona non grata in Hollywood. But he found this nasty little script for a movie called 8mm and decided he wanted to do that. 8mm is a movie about a private detective who is hired by a very rich woman who finds a snuff film amongst her husband's belongings, her dead husband's belongings, and hires him to find out if it's real, if the young girl that was in it was killed, and if she really was killed, and if not, like, she just doesn't want to think her husband's a monster, and it just gets seedier and dirtier from there. It was written by Andrew Kevin Walker. Joel Schumacher took it and extensively rewrote it to the point where Andrew Kevin Walker sort of disowned it, even though he ends up with credit on the script. It stars Nicolas Cage, young Joaquin Phoenix, young James Gandolfini, Peter Stormare is in it. I have never really liked this movie. I appreciated it more, funny enough, I think it's very easy in a vacuum to watch Nicolas Cage and be like, what is he doing? He's just all over the place, because he can be like that. But I actually appreciated his performance more this time, and I actually kind of appreciated Joaquin Phoenix's performance more, and was kind of sad that we don't get that sort of performance from Joaquin Phoenix anymore, because he's so like, I'm so intense. And yeah, he's cuckoo.
Yeah.
And,
8mm was the last movie I watched, and I was like, whoa, this is a movie that has a lot on its mind. This movie is a lot about like people being like, Diva, get out. Why are you looking at this stuff? Why, like, you have a family, you do not have to figure this out. You can just let it be. And it got me to thinking about, this idea of the things we watch and why we watch them, like the things that we consume, and we don't have to consume these things. We can be free from like, and so I thought that was interesting. And I don't know that was like perhaps the main purpose or point of what this movie is about, but and certainly like there's a lot of heightened, the craziness of sex and the craziness of like, they play a lot into like BDSM is kind of kooky and spooky, and like, and along with that is like hardcore rock and roll music and like people in like wearing leather.
Right.
And then like, oh, they're getting spanked, like, and rough sex is like crazy, which like, okay, I guess. But the bigger part of this is like, you don't actually have to engage with, and I think it's tough because I think people really didn't like this movie because it's very seedy, but I think that's kind of like the point, right? Like, you don't have to engage with things. Like, you don't have to watch violence on films if you don't want to.
Yeah, there's actually a really good horror movie that just came out this year, or a good, I don't want to say really good, but a movie I liked called Faces of Death. That's similar, and I don't want to get too much off track, but starring Barbie Ferreira. And I was like, oh, like this is interesting, like this thread. And I kind of watched them near each other, so I was picking up that vibe about like, yeah, it's a lot about like what we consume, and you actually don't have to. And the Barbie Ferreira one takes it a step further because it's about social media.
I did read up a lot about the writer though, and him talking about how it really bummed. He wrote Seven, and just that how he was like, listen, it made me realize like screenwriters are like the bottom of the barrel when it comes to these movies. These movies take a life on their own. Directors get to do whatever the fuck they want with them, and it's not the movie he wanted. It's not, he did not see his script being, but I think Joel Schumacher was like, I can take these ideas and make it into a Hollywood type thing where there is hope and there is like answers. Like at the end, it's very much like, there is catharsis. It's not like the absolute downer that I'm sure this guy wanted.
Yes. Yeah. And that you're not wrong. The other thing I do want to say, like you said, Andrew Kramer Walker wrote Seven. In the early 90s, Schumacher, of all people, becomes friends with David Fincher. So much so that Fincher shows him an early cut of Alien 3 to ask sort of for, not for guidance. Schumacher has been like, it wasn't for guidance. We are contemporaries. Like, I'm not anyone's mentor. And like, that was not my goal with Fincher. And he's like, but I was there to explain to him, this is a studio picture and people make sequels to make money. And like, I know you're used to doing your art thing, but like, that's not what they want. And that's not what they're gonna, and we've both seen Alien 3 a couple times now. And so I think that's really funny then that like he goes and makes 8mm, which is very clearly a Fincher-esque movie in a Joel Schumacher style. We've been talking a lot about these movies, and I think the big ones are obviously people care the most about Batman. So why don't we speed through a couple of these? But I think the experience on Batman does change the way he makes movies. And so like he does something still a little bit big like 8mm, and actually still a little bit big like Flawless in 1999, a movie we talked before in our Dragon film. Philip Seymour Hoffman plays a drag queen who's giving elocution lessons to Robert De Niro, who is a cop who has had a stroke and is supremely homophobic. That like I said, that's 1999. Tigerland in 2000, which is his Vietnam movie. I think Tigerland is the moment where he like really is like, okay, I have this style. I have this thing that people expect from me. Because even Flawless has kind of a Grand Guignol sort of like lighting thing to it and whatnot. And Tigerland, he's like, no, we're shooting it on 16 millimeter. It's all handheld. It's a high grain and whatnot. He like really is like, I'm not. And it's a Vietnam movie where they never go to Vietnam. It's like the threat. It's all in a training camp. He discovers Colin Farrell. A thing that he has said is not, he's like, I didn't discover Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell came in and blew us away and whatnot. And people are like, Colin Farrell says you discovered Colin Farrell. Like that's like, take him at his word.
And he's great.
And it's a good movie. I know earlier I said I kind of reappraised it this time. I still liked it. But it wasn't.
It's fine.
It's
fine.
Bad Company in 2002. Chris Rock and Anthony Hopkins. We talked a bit about it in our Chris Rock episode. Phone Booth also in 2002. Interesting enough that both these movies came out in 2002, almost as if something happened in 2001.
What would make these movies
that would make people not want to watch movies about terrorism in New York in 2001? I don't know. Anyways,
Phone Booth is kind of back to like heightened reality.
Yeah,
kind of. It's kind of like he took off the gloss a little bit for Tigerland and Bad Company, and then like put it back on a little bit for Phone Booth. I think Phone Booth is fun, silly.
I know, and you like Phone Booth a lot better than that. I still think it's very stupid, and also this time I was yeah, exactly. I also think this time I was like a little like, oh, you stopped, like your New York City did actually stop in the 70s, because I was like the sex workers and the pimp, and like I was like, these are a little tired,
right,
Joel.
Right, 100%.
You got any idea how much a pain in the ass you make in my life? Hey, look at me.
Look, I hear you.
Look me in the eye. Hang up the phone and walk away.
Don't do it.
I got my own problems.
I'm your fucking problem. You know why I'm your fucking problem? My girls keep running across the street yapping at me. Leon, he won't share the phone. Leon, he's tying up the phone. Leon, he's telling us to fuck off. Leon, we're gonna make you nuts unless you get over there. Make him get off the fucking phone.
Veronica Guerin in 2003, which we talked about in our Cate Blanchett episode. The fact that you got to work with Cate Blanchett, like, wow. This is like that Phone Boothy where it's like Ireland, but it's like sort of a height in Ireland. It's a message movie about a reporter who like stops doing like fluffy pieces and starts working on the drug trade and then gets killed for it. And it's actually very famous, and it actually changed a lot of the drug laws in Ireland. And it's a little paint by numbers, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is, but it's like maybe like it's a very good paint by numbers.
Finally, in 2004, his version of Family Opera comes out. They'd been working on this almost 20 years. Andrew Lloyd Webber like picked him and everything, which is Andrew Lloyd Webber's, because he is just a dick, has been like, since Joel Schumacher has passed away, he's been like, oh yeah, they're going to remake it. No, I didn't agree with him casting, who he cast as the Phantom. And, oh, I thought Christine was too young and whatnot. And
too young?
I know, which is, I think she's actually the perfect age. Emmy Rossum was 16 when they made it. And that's what Christine Daae should be. She was young. Like,
she has to be a young, naive woman to be like believing that there's an angel around. Hello.
Right. He thought Gerard Butler was too young, and like Gerard Butler, who's like 20 years older than her in the movie.
Maybe if you think the casting is the problem with this, with your work,
right?
I don't know.
It's very lavish. I will never like Andrew Lloyd Webber. I like Evita. That's sort of the end of the line for me for to forcing Gerard Butler to talk sing because he couldn't sing the role, to like have him like do his stage whisper of "Your chains are still mine, you belong to me." Like,
yeah, I've seen Phantom of the Opera on Broadway.
Yes, me too.
I've seen this movie multiple times. I saw it again for this, and I was just like, sometimes like shows just aren't meant for like this medium. Like
it's funny because it really, for some reason, like he's not playing it up as a film enough. Like, and he could make it more filmic. The thing that I always think about is Masquerade, The
Yes.
thing that they do so beautifully in the stage show is when the Phantom breaks into the masquerade. There's just like a huge explosion and he appears at the top of the stairs. And in the movie, it's like this voguing dance number. And then the music gets like a little softer and the camera goes a little wonky. It goes like a little Dutch angle and it like glides over and he's at the top of the stairs. He's like, why so silent, good messieurs? And it's like, I'm not scared of this guy. Like
Yeah.
somebody push him over.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, that's just the man.
That's just
like,
the man.
Why so silent, good monsieur?
the stage version does a really good job of actually making him feel like a phantom. This is like
Yes.
just a aging twink. I don't like it's fine. I do think Emmy Rossum is beautiful.
Yeah.
She sounds great. I feel so bad for her that she's surrounded by fucking Patrick Wilson, who is a hot man,
Yeah.
and they gave him a fuck ass bob. I
Yeah.
don't.
And I like Patrick Wilson and he's a good singer. He's so bland. And every time I see him in this movie, my brain just goes, can it be Christine? Like it's
Yeah.
just so
Yeah.
like it's too much.
He looks exactly like the Beast post transformation when you're
Yes.
disappointed that the Beast isn't hotter.
Yes, yeah.
That's just it. It's tough to get through. It's really long.
Yes.
I do like Minnie Driver. I like Minnie Driver in this. She's fun.
And for some reason, and like I know why, so I'm saying for some reason a little bit facetious. She's the only one who's dubbed, and it's because Minnie Driver, who can sing, can't do opera. That's fine. But if you're gonna fucking dub her, dub Gerard Butler.
100%. Like let him just actually be like the Phantom and not have to like it's kind of wild. It's kind of wild. Yeah, nothing else to say with it. I mean, there was like this little triad moment of like Rent, Phantom of the Opera, and Chicago happening like in the mid-aughts where musicals were having a moment, but this really, really kind of put a stop to those for a little bit.
It's funny because this is his last musical, but I will say in the 90s, after What's Love Got to Do with It, he was briefly signed to do Dreamgirls, and he really wanted to cast Lauryn Hill in Dreamgirls, which is wild casting. He also really wanted to do A Star Is Born in the 2000s with Will Smith and Jennifer Lopez.
That's really tough to hear, I gotta say. I'm taking in both of those statements has really rocked my world. I'm like, Lauryn Hill is very talented, obviously. Is she as Dina?
I guess so. I
mean, she's no Effie.
Right. She's certainly not Effie. Yeah.
And then Jennifer Lopez, I love her. Will Smith, like what? Like,
yeah.
A lot going on there. I don't know. Maybe like I will say maybe Joel Schumacher, Blinded by the Beauty.
Yes.
I will say classic beautiful gowns movie. Like the costumes are beautiful, like some sets are beautiful. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense in the film, but like I'm like these are beautiful.
He does the number 23 in 2007, reteaming himself with Jim Carrey. Blood Creek in 2009, which I talked about all the way back in our Michael Fassbender episode, where he plays a magical zombie Nazi.
Sure. Number 23 and Blood Creek back to back feels very dark-sided.
And it's very that era of like really sharp, like jagged edits and really like, yeah, it's not for me. Thank you. 12 in 2010, which is sort of his return to teenage drama.
Sure.
And Trespass in 2011, which is his final full big screen movie, reteaming with both Nicolas Cage and Nicole Kidman. Not a good movie, but a camp classic, let me tell you.
Yeah.
You're like, is that how I would describe it? Like,
I mean,
literally every reaction from Nicole Kidman does so much face acting in this movie. I recognize that guy.
Yeah,
I'm having a
yeah.
flashback.
Yeah, that's true. She's doing the Raymond Simonier.
Yes,
every
100%. And then
scene.
Nicolas Cage is just shouting. Ben Mendelsohn is doing this for some reason. Like,
Yeah, I didn't know this movie existed until I watched it for this.
And yet it
Diamonds,
existed when we did our Nicole Kidman episode. So
a lesser Nicole film, I'd say.
2013, he gets asked by, like I said, his good friend David Fincher to come and do a bunch of episodes in the first season of House of Cards. He said, it was a really interesting time to do that. They had like a lot of carte blanche because Netflix had never made a TV show before, and that was pretty much it for his film career. He did his final thing that he actually did in terms of like film is he made a short film called Man in the Mirror that was written by a teenager. He'd won like a national contest. It's a short film about a gay basketball player in the closet in high school. You can find it on YouTube. I did watch it. It's not a high point in Joel Schumacher's career, but I think it says, that he was still willing to do kind of charitable things. Speaking of, he was a big Democratic Party candidate supporter. Through multiple congressional campaigns, he supported a lot of people in John Kerry's 2004 presidential campaign. In terms of his personal life, as we mentioned, we've been talking this whole episode, he was very gay, and in his own words, extremely promiscuous. In 2019, he said he slept with between 10,000 and 20,000 men over the course of his life. And he said, listen, for gay people, that's not that weird. That's not that high of a body count. That's not, And I was like, okay, Joel.
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed, Diva. Go off, Queen.
Yeah.
I just can't, there's no one, gay or straight, in Hollywood who is saying things like that.
Right.
And it is a credit to people just must have really fucking liked him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying sexually. I mean they wanted to work with this guy.
I did not. I didn't even take that as
This very gay guy. They were like, no, we want to work with him over and over again and invite him to do things. He had to turn down so many movies and sequels. And he was just like, and even after the disaster of Batman and Robin, he was just like, I need a break because I've been working so hard. And to your point earlier, he kept working with his friends and building people up and never forgetting the favors and chances people took on him. So it's really cool that this guy who is so open about his personal life and his faggotry, for lack of better words, was able to really get shit done, way into the new millennium. And who knows? I don't know why he stopped making movies. I don't know what happened.
In June 22nd of 2020, he dies of cancer. I don't know how long he had cancer. I don't know how long he was suffering with cancer. He was 80 at the time. So, people say making film is a young person's game. He didn't start when he was young either. And that's the other thing. He didn't make his first movie until he was in his 30s. So I think he worked really hard. He made an impression on a lot of people when he died. Jim Carrey, Matthew McConaughey, Colin Farrell, all said incredibly nice things for, credited him with helping launch their career. Nicole Kidman said really nice things. Like you said, I think part of it was also he was incredibly chill. You watch him in interviews and you can tell when somebody, like I said, Charlie Rose clearly upset him by ambushing him but he was kind of tell it like it is, because he's like, what's the point? What's the point of lying about it?
The more money that's spent on making a film, the more vanilla it has to be, because, and it's appropriate, that the people who are writing the check for you to go off and make a $100 million movie are expecting a great deal of asses in a great deal of seats, as they say in Hollywood. That's fair. If you're making a movie for less than $7 million, you can take risks and use unknowns and do things that I've done in the past. I have many directors that are my heroes, as I'm sure everyone does, who made some great films a while ago. And you wonder where they are now, why they either aren't working or the films that they're making now do not have the same passion or maybe the same inspiration that the early ones did. my goal as a director is that I haven't even made my best films yet. If critics are saying this is my best film, that makes me feel great. Not just for the ego praise, which is nice, but that it means it's like a report card. You know, you're doing better, and now next year I want to do better. And because I don't want to have made my best films in the past. I want to be making them, you know, in the future.
He also was just like kind of unabashedly like, yeah, I want to make like kind of popcorn movies.
Say what you will about him as a filmmaker. He has said one of my favorite things a filmmaker has ever said, which is actually in the commentary to Batman and Robin.
Akiva Goldsman was blamed a lot for the sort of lightness and humor and fun and games of Batman and Robin. But that's not fair. I take full responsibility. I mean, Akiva did write the script, but I shot it and worked with Akiva. So, you know, if you love a movie, there are hundreds of people that made it lovable for you. If you don't like it, blame the director. That's what our name's there for.
I love that. That is so ballsy to like take on the entire responsibility of Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think that's the kind of guy he was.
He's a cool fucking guy. Oh, I love this guy.
All right. Why don't we get out of this history portion and into our reviews? Why don't we start with our 1-star review and talk about the Joel Schumacher films we didn't particularly like?
Okay, Gavin, I think there are some options here.
There certainly are.
I'm going to go with 2010's 12. This was the worst episode of Gossip Girl I've ever seen. I kind of piggybacking off of your idea that like New York stopped for him in the 70s. I was like, oh, you don't understand young people. You don't understand who or Jordan Melamed wrote this based on a Nick McDonald novel of the same name. This is all happening in the same time period when, like, you know, there was a lot of YA novels that were like, kids with lots of money are so crazy and like getting into lots of trouble and they're bad and naughty and
I think like it permeated way other culture. I mean, remember My Super Sweet 16 or like, you know, like MTV's Cribs and whatnot. Like we were very in a materialistic time at that point.
And like, you know, starring Chase Crawford, who was in Gossip Girl, starring 50 Cent, you know, who was like a bad boy, you know, the rapper who survived getting shot a bunch of times. Like there was this kind of energy surrounding this movie, and it is kind of icky and gross. All narrated by fucking Kiefer Sutherland, good friend of the pod. And I haven't read this novel, but like it's just Chase Crawford plays White Mike. And
I know, and they say it so many times in the movie.
So many times. White Mike likes doing this, and White Mike does. The narration is so heavy and intense. It's obviously like a style choice to have like this narration happening. Basically, we're following White Mike, who is a drug dealer because he's sad because his mom died. Basically, there's kind of like a constellation of hot young people.
You can just say the cast of Scream 4. Because it literally, it's Rory Culkin, it's Emma Roberts, it's Nico Tortorella. And then you sprinkle in a little bit of Jeremy Allen White and Ethan Peck from Star Trek now. Emily Meads, poor Zoe Kravitz in this movie.
Yeah, oh my God, poor Zoe Kravitz.
I was like, give her something to do. And then fucking Billy Magnuson.
The movie is just like, you know, following White Mike around and the hot girls who want drugs from him, and this one girly who like becomes addicted to this drug because I don't know, her life's too perfect. Everyone's like fucking and the nerdy guys are like wanting to. Billy Magnuson plays like a brother who just got out of like rehab and is still not doing well, and everyone's parents are not around and not present. So again, I mean, interesting to think about now that like we're talking about Joel's life as a latchkey kid without, you know, having a parent present. And And this movie, I wonder if like that's how he felt connected to this, like young people who don't have guidance and getting into trouble. The climax, I guess, is Billy Magnuson basically shoots up a party, has a mental breakdown. 50 Cent ends up having sex with this teenager because she's like so desperate for drugs. It's really, really rough, really handled really poorly. Not There's not enough care or thought in this movie at all to be tackling these types of themes. I can imagine in a book, there's a lot to like go through and perhaps get through of things. This feels like about 3 seasons of Gossip Girl crammed into one movie.
It's shockingly 94 minutes too, and it feels like 3 hours long. Like,
yeah, they keep introducing more hot teens.
Yes.
And it's so shocking though, because it's like you get little clips of people here and there, and then by the end it's like, and they're dead, they're on the ground just bleeding out, whatever. It's shocking without any value. So yeah, pretty rough go, I would say. And that's saying something, because Joel's made some pretty big stinkers. This one,
yeah.
I was just I couldn't believe. Yeah, I can only imagine people were like, again, riding the wave of shocking young hot people doing crazy things, and hopefully trying to strike while iron hot. None of the like energy of like St. Elmo's Fire or The Lost Boys is here.
Right.
That's all kind of gone. It also just like looks bad. I leave that
yes,
to you.
yeah, it
But, like,
really does. Yeah.
the coloring is crazy.
Well, he's like really trying to capture that millennial. Like, it does almost look like TV.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the scope of any of his movies. I'm just gonna pull the cord and say this is also my 1-star review. This movie is atrocious. Like, it's not.
yeah.
I mean, this is barely a film. I did read in an interview with him where he said after he did St. Elmo's Fire, he was actually offered Less Than Zero, a film that eventually goes to be made by Marek Kiwanicka, but written by Bret Easton Ellis. It's based off a novel, and like Bret Easton Ellis, who wrote Rules of Attraction, American Psycho, and whatnot. And we talked about Less Than Zero because Andrew McCarthy is in it. It's like the movie with the drug dealer and Robert Downey Jr. and Jamie Gertz is in it and whatnot.
Right.
And that's what I was like, oh, this is like him trying like years later to be like, actually, I could do Bret Easton Ellis, but also like, what if I did it once again? He's a Robert Altman fan. Like, what if I introduce so many characters it's unwieldy? And like it's just all these ideas, and none of them work together. And like you said, the narration is oppressive, and it's third person narration too. So it's all like this person did this, and this person did that, and this person did.
White Mike loves rooftops. He would love to jump from rooftop to rooftop. He knows he never will. It's Saturday night and the city is bright and loud. But he is alone.
It's just an ugly movie. It's about ugly things. It's not really in touch with any of the culture at the time.
Yeah, it's just shocking all around. And almost, I mean, all the critiques and criticism people gave to Gossip Girl were largely like unfounded. Like, it's like a silly show. This feels like it's aiming to be serious. This feels irresponsible. This feels like exploitive again, and just like we're getting some of that heightened reality here, but like in a negative way, I guess. Like it's heightened reality in that like it's a lie. It's not like stylized. It's just a lie. And yeah, it doesn't make me feel good.
Was there anything else that you saw you didn't particularly like?
I thought Dying Young was really trying it.
It's not good.
Doesn't really kind of like,
and it's so long, and it takes a third act like left-hand turn that I was like, we're really gonna spend this much time on the ocean, like at the shore, like
Bad Company. I was like, how are we making Chris Rock boring?
I agree with both of those. I think if I had to go with, I feel bad doing this. It's literally everything after Phantom of the Opera is just like, it's just a runaway, like the number 23, Blood Creek, 12, Trespass. It's just a straight shoot down. Just like, it just keeps getting like, and the more you're like, and I don't know what it was. And once again, I don't want to blame it on anything. Like I hate when people are like, oh, filmmakers of a certain age, like they can't. I think Scorsese's making some of the best films he's ever made currently. I do think that, you know, whether it was sickness, whether it was age, but it just he lost kind of that spark that made his movies interesting. And you know,
those movies at the end have like the same like fake shock value in them.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing really like it's trying to be this like kind of edginess, that shocking, you know, kind of, and it's strange because like 8mm does have some of that shock, but it doesn't feel the way that these movies feel. These feel so cheap and false, and I don't know if it's like
that's what's keeping Flawless out of this for me as well too, because I famously gave Flawless my 1-star review in our Drag on Film episode. I don't think it's by far his worst movie at all. And I don't like it particularly, but I do think like he like made a good looking movie and got really good performances out of, though I will still stick by, I still feel like I don't really love Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance, but it's better than I remember. And I think Daphne Rubin Vega's good in it. And like, so like, I think really it's something about that end, but also you are correct about Bad Company. All
not
right.
great.
Let's get out of our 1-star reviews. Why don't we get into our 5-star reviews and talk about the films we loved?
There is just no mystery here. Like like so many other queer millennial men, would not be who I am without Batman and Robin. And going through, even when you were talking about like the fake plastic ice, I was noticing that and I thought, this is so cool. He just got to make stuff. It never bothers me. I mean, I guess like even the idea that he got Arnold Schwarzenegger to like commit to the makeup and the light in his mouth and the eyes this time around, I didn't realize. And even looking at the poster, Arnold is the headliner.
He's the first name in the credits. Yeah.
Yes. First name in the credits. He's on the top of the poster above George Clooney, which is crazy. I mean, like the titular Batman and Robin are second to Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't recall Arnold being that like big but sure. Great. And I will say the performance, like I was mentioning earlier, I think every performance in this is very good, save for Alicia Silverstone. But I don't think it's her. I don't think that's her fault. I think one of the keys that I think this movie is successful is, even though it was rushed, there is a lot of emotion here. We connect to Mr. Freeze and his story because his wife, and it's not just like, you know, compared to Two-Face in Batman Forever, like there's not really good like motivation for him as a character in that movie. You know, I think we all kind of can understand like heads or tails, good, bad, but like there is no motivation beyond he's this like chaos demon, right?
Well, that's and they give the backstory, you know, he was burned by acid during a trial and whatnot.
Right.
But it's just so throwaway.
Whereas in the core of this movie is like there is this illness that is leading him, and it's funny to see him, you know, kind of shove off it's Vivica Fox, right?
Yeah.
Who's like the hot girl, and he's like, no, I'm in love with my wife and I will do anything for her. And you know, at the very end when Batman is telling him like, I saved your wife, I have all my best doctors on the case, can you help me and he says like 2 and 3 in the morning. Like there's actual like stakes here that is not just silly Billy stuff. And even though they don't give Uma Thurman, I mean, Uma Thurman's, her Poison Ivy's whole reason of existence is saving the planet. Like, you know, man has fucked up the environment. Like, and she again has motivations. And I was thinking about how the way you talk about Batman Returns so eloquently is how, you know, the best Batman movies have great villains and that they need to be really motivated because we don't want to fucking hear about Batman and Robin anymore. Like we already know, like, and it's just like Tale as Old as Time. This movie does away with all that stuff. Like I forgot in Batman Forever that they like tell us about the fucking circus and I'm like, okay, LOL. And that's And that's probably why like Batgirls is the weakest part of this, because like they have to be like, oh yeah, like she's the niece and like,
Right,
you know, blah blah
right.
blah. And
She was kicked out of school. She loves a motorcycle.
she's a
like,
bad girl and she knows how to fight, I guess, or
Right.
whatever. It's like none of that matters. Like just be the thing. And so yeah, the style, I think all of Joel's superpowers come together here with like the heightened reality, the fun, the colors. I think the costumes all work. I think in Batman Forever, that whole thing of like, oh, we're looking into your mind, Batman, and there's a bat floating around, and why are you scared of the bat? Like, it's like, Diva, shut up. Like, it's just not that serious. It's not that hard. And Batman and Robin really gets it all in this really tightly wound, quick, fun movie. I think the jokes are funny. People who don't like this movie, I'm just like, loosen up, babes.
She's alive.
So I'm asking you, Victor Freeze, help me save another life. Show me how to cure McGregor syndrome stage 1. And maybe you can also save the life of the man your wife once loved. He's still inside you, Victor. Buried deep beneath the snow. Will you help me?
Clearly, he also understood his references. I mean, doing the whole like Marlena Dietrich,
Yes.
like the whole like gorilla,
yep,
costume thing with Uma Thurman and getting that performance out of her to like, yeah, it just is. It is. It's a gay Fantasia on Batman themes, and
100%, 100%.
And like, no matter what he says about like, we didn't set it out that way, and I think it's impossible to ignore that. I do really like Batman, and I've said many times, my problem with Batman Forever is a movie in the closet, and Batman and Robin is out and proud, and that's
100%, 100%.
I love that pick. I'm glad you and you do talk about Batman and Robin eloquently, honestly.
Because I've seen Batman Returns, obviously, but like it wasn't until you were talking about like, oh, the reason why is like Penguin and Catwoman like are showing us sides of Batman, revealing something about him, and so like being able to interrogate who Batman is through his villains is really the key to like the success here in these stories. And I don't know that Batman Forever does that super well, even though I think the Riddler and that characterization is very entertaining.
Right.
It's really seeing, I mean, George Clooney interacting with Uma Thurman when she's just like, harassing him is really good. And same thing with, and again, it's not just like Mr. Freeze is here because he wants to like be crazy and kooky. He's like, no, my fucking wife.
Right.
And it is emotional when he finds out that Poison Ivy has betrayed him. It's like, and you feel that pain. And like when she's in the it's such a good like button on the end of that movie when she's like, he loves me not. And then
not.
And then
he loves me not. Like
it's so good. It's so good.
Well, great pick. I will not join you in Batman and Robin, but I do love it. So you know my love is well documented. Once again, action figures back there.
Yes, very.
Mine is 1987's The Lost Boys. I just think that like that was, Schumacher had one shot to like really prove it. And I know St. Elmo's Fire came before this, and I know that but like to me, this was his magnum opus. This was his opera. He was once again given free reign to like take over the script by 3 J's. I didn't realize this until now. The screenplay is by Janice Fisher, James Jeremias, and Jeffrey Boehm, and like really make it his own. Like I said, the subtext is there with Corey Haim being the young queer child, but also like Jason Patrick and Jamie Gertz are so hot together. Like you feel the palpable lust between them. You understand like the vampirism as a metaphor for puberty and like becoming your own man and whatnot. Kiefer Sutherland, like the way that he says Michael throughout the movie, Michael.
Michael.
Yeah, like, and it's just so queer coded and beautiful. And I guess I didn't even describe the plot. The plot of the movie is Diane Wiest takes her two younger sons after after her husband has abandoned them, and moves back to this town in California where her father lives. Her father, who's like a kooky old Maurice type guy who loves to like.
Also, they the beginning of the movie, he's like, "Let's go back to Albuquerque." I'm like, "Girl."
Yeah,
you want to leave beachside California, go back to Albuquerque?
Fictional town of Santa Carla. And he's the grandfather loves taxidermy, hates television, but still gets TV Guide. And Michael he's in his rebellious stage, and he immediately falls in with a gang of what turns out to be vampires. And he gets seduced by Kiefer Sutherland. He starts to be turned, but as long as him and Jamie Gertz's character, like, essentially Corey Haim also befriends these two young vampire hunters known as the Frog Brothers, and they convince him that, like,
love those kids.
Absolutely. If you kill the head vampire, you can get rid of the vampiric curse. At the same time, Diane Wiest is like trying to find herself as a single woman, and she starts dating Edward Herrmann, who's playing Max, who runs the video store that she gets a job in. And it goes from there, and like it gets more gothic and more intense from there. But yeah, it's a really fun, it's a little messy. It does, like, the narrative is like a little messy. The fact that it like ends fully just on a joke is hilarious to me.
100%. I love it.
But yeah, I just love the style of this movie. I love, like I said, the way it incorporates music into itself. I love the lighting in the film. The cinematography is really great. The underground hotel where they live, like it's just got all of these elements that are so grand and yet really work in concert with each other to make this one piece of very believable media. And sure, it's very of its time. It's very 1980s. That's fine. There's plenty of movies I love that are very 1940s, very 1950s. It's okay for something to be set in its time period. It kind of bugs me when people are like, "Oh, that's so old fashioned." No, it was made in the 80s. It looks like the 80s. And I like that it's an 80s movie that's kind of about counterculture and kind of about not fitting in and not doing. And sure, those people that don't fit in just happen to be blood-sucking vampires, but they are their own family. And what, as queer people, do we get to do? We get to choose our own family.
Our own family. Say that.
So, now you know what we are. Now you know what you are. You'll never grow old, Michael. And you'll never die. But you must feed.
Say that.
But yeah, I love Lost Boys, and rewatching it for this like only cemented it. And also, like I said, I'm wearing the shirt for the musical. Musical makes a lot of changes. They're all great. They're all, like, the Lost Boys are a band now. Fine. Yeah, totally into it. They're a band, exactly. The mother gets a lot more to do. Love it. Great.
I was just thinking right now, like, because there's not a lot of movies like this where there's a lot of young men and it's kind of like adventure, timey boy stuff. And I was thinking, the only thing I think of, and like, God help me, is like the MTV show Teen Wolf has a lot.
Which I also did like. So.
I know, has a lot indebted to this. There's obviously a lot of like homoerotic stuff going on.
Well, that's the Russell Mulcahy of it all. That's
right. Well, it's like, like the puberty, you're changing your body, feeling an outsider, like the curse of, being a young teen boy. Like, I don't know. I remember as soon as I finished this, I was like, God, like, if there was more media like this, where it's like young men figuring themselves out, like how to talk to each other, how to talk to girls, like how to, fuck up like this fucking guys who are assholes. Like we're desperately needing this, and like less of like Transformers type
movies.
And
it does, like, to that note, it actually does have a lot to say about sibling relationships too.
Yes.
Because like there is that era in your life, if you have a younger sibling, which I do not, but I have been the younger sibling before, where it's like the older sibling is like, no, get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't want to hang out. Like, you're a child. And in this, it's exacerbated by the fact that Michael is becoming a vampire, but it is very much like the like, oh, I'm scared. Like, you're my older brother. And I thought we were like, you know, as close as can be, and now you scare me.
Right. And everyone telling you to kill him. Like, kill your brother, kill them,
kill your
whatever.
brother.
But yeah, I love this pick. I think we nailed it. Like, I do think Batman and Robin and the Lost Boys kind of encapsulates everything wonderful about Joel Schumacher. Being able to take these really silly like stories, like it's literally vampires and superheroes, but like grounding them into a reality that still feels fantastical and like super fun to watch. So yeah, I think we nailed that. What else like good stuff do we want to like shout out?
You know, I don't think either of these movies are amazing, but I do have a soft spot for both St. Elmo's Fire and A Time to Kill. I think they're actually kind of bad actually, but they're both really beautiful and really grand. And I mean, like that scene of Demi Moore locking herself in her apartment hoping to freeze to death as a method of suicide is so stupid but so beautiful looking. Like
it's the movie's so silly and dumb, and yet I'm like invested with each of these characters except Emilio Estevez. That's a crazy
yes, 100%. Yeah, that fucking stalker. Get out of here.
It's like, oh, he's a stalker. Oh.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. I'm so glad that you sent me Cousins. I think that is a very worthwhile watch for Isabella Rossellini alone. I think people should watch 8mm. I think like, am I seeing something there? Like in this idea of, and maybe like to your point of we're in such a social media constantly consuming things that are probably not in our best interest.
Yeah.
There is something there. That is valuable. And then also Veronica Guerin, you know.
And I think Veronica Guerin's fine. I don't have any, I don't want to make it sound like I have any like vendetta against it or anything. I think it's fine. Yeah. No, she shouldn't have done that, Ireland. Real quick, just on 8mm again too. One of the only people I didn't give a shout out to in that movie was Catherine Keener, who plays Nicolas Cage's wife, and I think she elevates what could be a really thankless role because she's like kind of the like spends a lot of time on the phone, like a lot of time away from him.
Yeah, she's the wife on the phone, kind of being like, "Where are you?"
Yeah, but she's really, you know, there's a really bad version of that in Falling Down. I think she plays it really well and gives it a really great characterization.
Catherine Keener deserves more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Before we get into our fast forward, why don't we do our mixed review?
So my 1-star review is 2010's 12.
And also my 1-star review was 2010's 12.
My 5-star review is 1997's Batman and Robin.
And my 5-star review was 1987's The Lost Boys. 10 years apart. Look at that.
Wow. Incredible. All right, let's get into our fast forward.
Obviously, as we said before, Joel Schumacher passed away in 2020. It's crazy that it's been 6 years gone, but it's also really funny. But like, time is so nebulous post-COVID that I was reading interviews with him. And they're like, "What TV shows are you watching?" He's like, "I love Game of Thrones," and I was like, "Game of Thrones wasn't." Oh no, Game of Thrones was like, And so, yeah, obviously we're not going to get anything else out of Joel Schumacher. What do you think his sort of legacy is? I don't think there really is anyone like him currently.
Right. Correct. I wonder, and do you think about like, what's the Gunn guy? What the new
James
DC
Gunn
guy?
Yeah,
James Gunn. The things that he's trying to do and walk the line between toyetic or cartoon-esque, kind of getting more homage to, you know, Justice League, the animated series, and what he's doing with, you know, his Superman movies. And what Joel did is interesting to try and walk that line between like giving the boys what they want with the fights and whatever. It was also funny, like when you think about Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, the fights are very much like boom, pow, like little punch here, a little kick there.
Oh yeah, they're
throw
like
throw
not
my cape. Like it's not the high stakes. I mean, it's literally Poison Ivy like blowing the dust, and like it really is just about the beauty of these people and kind of like the crazy sets, and like, you know, if someone needs to be punched, there's Bane to do something, you know, like
right. And that's why every Poison Ivy action figure comes equipped with him.
Oh, Mr. Bane. It's so good. It's so good. But it's interesting, like in this time period where our like attention spans are so shortened, and we are desperate for, you know, this like constant serotonin. When you watch Uma Thurman in that gorilla mode, it just makes you stop. And why is that? It's because they cast a billion dancers. They got a costume designer to dress the fuck out of everybody. The production design of that set for that party with every single pageant girly who's a flower, right? Miss Magnolia, Miss whatever Lily, like you see it and you get it. This is a completely realized world. Even for like all the corners that they might have tried to get, like everything that you see is thought of. Even if it looks cheap, it's thought of, and like you just stop. You have to stop and take it all in. And I think about like that compared to now, where it's just kind of like very blah, whatever. You know, a lot of the Marvel movies have come.
Well, yeah. I mean, as somebody who works in post, I can tell you, like, people design a color look, but they don't shoot for it nowadays because they want it done in post. And a lot of stuff that gets delivered to me is delivered flat, and I am expected to add a lot to it to make it look like what they wanted. And that's the look of it's never as good as if you just fucking lit it on set and like shot it the way you wanted it to look in the first place.
This is maybe like a bad comparison, but like I'm thinking of, you know, do you recall what anyone looks like in the last Captain America movie beyond like Red Hulk? Sabra, which like is a problematic character, is just like in a jumpsuit, I guess.
Right.
She's wearing blue, I guess.
Right.
They're all these like military type guys. Like Bane is just like a big macho guy, but they designed the fuck out of him in this movie, right? Like,
right.
Really,
I can't even tell you what the leader looked like, and he's the actual big bad.
Yeah,
like
it's Shang-Chi and the whatever million rings. What did anything look like in that movie? I couldn't tell you. Like, it's just this, for lack of a better term, like this lack of beauty, lack of
the children are starving for beauty.
They are. There was no glamour. There was like, and I wonder, you know, if we will ever have this return to like over the top opulent filmmaking.
Right.
Like the key, I think, to the success of Lost Boys on Broadway is people to say like it's a fucking carnival. It's a carnival on Broadway where it's so over the top. It's so incredible. It's such an event, and people keep saying how movies need to be events. You need to be blown away, and like really, the reason to go see this on the big screen is because it's such candy. And like, you know, Joel, for lack of better or worse, was attempting that even in like Phantom of the Opera. I saw that. I was like, this man had the candles coming up from the water,
right,
in this lair. Like, it's so ridiculous.
There's literally just a small section of the path that he puts her on a horse.
Yeah.
Why?
For no reason.
He puts her on a horse, leads her down a hallway, gets her off the horse.
Yep.
Because it's beautiful. That's why.
Yeah. She's walking around this cemetery in circles with snow. Her tits are out, like for no reason. And it's just because it's beautiful.
And I would argue he brings that sensibility to the movies that you don't associate that with. The Veronica Guerins, the phone booths, the flawlesses, like the drag scenes in that movie are not my favorite, but like you can tell he's somebody who has been to a drag show, like he's seen and lived in that world.
Right. I mean, St. Elmo's Fire, same way. Like, you know, there's sexy saxophone playing because like it is just, you know, something to like aspire to, something to like kind of just drool over for a little bit. Like there's beauty here. And I would hope that, as movie people continue to look for like, how do we make movies into events? It's literally just as simple as like, find a fucking amazing dress, find someone with vision. Like, there's a reason why we continue to think about that green dress in Atonement, right? Like, like those things exist and can still continue to happen, but people seem to think like the idea, like the Purge idea, like whatever the idea is, high concept is the way to go. And like, I'm not saying that's bad, but like, it's not just that.
Right.
If you spend a little fucking money on production design, on costume design, like, and just kind of make the world a little bit more lived in, like, and a little bit more beautiful, that goes so far.
It's funny. I think it goes back to what I was saying before too. Like, what is a director's job other than executing the vision of all these different departments, bringing them all in to solidify it into one thing, and that's why he can say, if you didn't like it, it's my fault. But if you did like it, it's all of these people that put it together and brought it to you.
You know who I'm also thinking of now? Guillermo del Toro. And like, also kind of gothic, very interested in like a head to toe filmmaking experience, right?
It's so funny because when and I just think it's a point of reference for a lot of people, but when he started, everybody was like, oh, he's like Spanish Tim Burton. But I think that's really, he's obviously more than either of these people because he's his own thing. But yeah, I do think like he has a quality with that. And also, like, this is going to sound kind of negative, and I don't want to sound negative on the way out, but also sometimes from a storytelling standpoint too. But like, because I didn't love Frankenstein, I thought it was fine, but yeah, I think Frankenstein is very much like it was in the spirit of Joel Schumacher, and hopefully he would not take that as a negative, because I think it's all the best things about Joel Schumacher, what made him a good filmmaker.
Yeah, and I think like, just to kind of wrap it up, like, I do want us to like consider this very gay, very queer filmmaker who was, like you said, so generous, and so interested in introducing beauty and telling the stories about, like he lived through so much, and finding ways in his movies to, imbue some of that energy. And I know like there was criticism about, oh, the reason why Batman and Robin failed was because it was too campy, too gay. And it's like, fucking maybe, but like, there is like, if there is a legacy that Joel Schumacher has, it's like there is a generation of us who saw that movie and were like, holy shit, like there is something here that is speaking to me on a like very deep level. Like when a young queer person sees something like that, and it's like, you can be bawdy and outlandish and a performer, because what is Poison Ivy doing but performing, right? Like, and what is Mr. Freeze doing? He's going out there telling the dumb jokes, like, and there's so many performers and queer people who are like, the musical theater kid in you, like, this wants to perform, and like, and he was able to do all that, and the Lost Boys with all that homoerotic, like, those ideas in there. So I just think like, he didn't have the highest batting average, let's just say that, but it's, he had the privileges of like people giving him the shot to make these films, and he made it with his whole queer heart, and that I think is something to celebrate.
Absolutely. Well, happy Pride then. I think that absolutely wraps up the career of Joel Schumacher. I'm so happy you guys delivered him to us, because I think he is sort of overlooked and maligned in the history. But I do think, like you said, the batting average wasn't great, but when he hit a home run. Am I doing sports right? Am I doing sports right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Yes.
Good. But if you want to hit a home run with us and to score the net ball match point, you can always find us on Blue Sky at The Mixed Reviews.
You can find us on Facebook. Just type in The Mixed Reviews.
You can always email us at reviewsmixed@gmail.com.
We're on Instagram at _mix_reviews.
And if you want to listen to our back catalog like you've listened to this entire episode, we are on every major podcast app. We're on Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon. Find us on all of those. You can also find us on glitterjaw.com because we are a proud member of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective, and find the roster of their great shows at glitterjaw.com as well as ours. Also, if you do listen to us on any of those podcast apps, please stop by, leave us a 5-star rating, write a little review. We'll read it on the show. We very much appreciate it.
Put your bat signals on, and we will see you next time, divas. Good night. Goodbye.
From a rose on the grave. Ooh, the more I get of you, the stranger it feels, yeah. Now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the grave.
Hey, who's talking about Batman? I love Batman. All those muscles, the tight rubber armor, and that flashy car. I heard it can drive up walls.
Yeah, sure, Joel.